Hello there, everyone. Welcome to Whisper Zone. I am your storyteller, and I'm here to guide you tonight. I know many of you use these videos to drift off to sleep, so before we begin, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. I'm always curious. Where are you watching from, and what time is it in your part of the world? Now, find your cozy spot and relax. You ever hear a knock on your door in the middle of nowhere, and just know not to open it? Yeah, that's what happened to me in the fall of '55, in the Bitter Creek wilderness. That place wasn't just remote, it was cut off from the world, like God forgot to finish it. It was late October, the air was dry, the sky bruised with a storm that hadn't hit yet, and the coyotes wouldn't shut up all day. That usually meant something was off. I was stationed alone in a small wooden outpost tucked between sun-baked cliffs and dead trees. No phone, no power lines. Just an old radio that barely worked on a good day, a shotgun I kept for bears, and my wife's harmonica in my jacket pocket. I hadn't touched it in months, not since she passed. The day had been quiet in the wrong kind of way. The wind would pick up and die just as fast. Birds didn't chirp. The chipmunks that usually scattered near my porch hadn't shown. Not a single one. I thought maybe the coming storm was messing with their heads. Around sunset, I saw clouds boiling over the ridge. Big and dark, the kind that didn't just bring rain. They brought thunder, wind, maybe a flood if it got nasty. Enough. I made sure the station's storm shutters were latched and filled up the kettle with water before the power blinked. I sat in my old rocking chair with my boots up, trying to read a dog-eared paperback when I heard the knock. It was soft. 3 taps, then silence. I froze. No one comes out here. Not unless they're bleeding, lost, or plain crazy. I set the book down and stood up slow. My fingers brushed the edge of my belt, where the flashlight was clipped. I grabbed it. Didn't turn. Dawn yet. My eyes were already adjusted to the dim lantern light. Another knock, still soft. Same rhythm. Tap, tap, tap. I walked to the door and pressed my ear against the wood. Nothing. The coyotes had stopped. That silence outside, it felt heavy, like the night itself was holding its breath. I called out, "Who's there?" A pause. Then, a voice. Soft, childlike. "Mister, can we come in? It's cold out here. Kids." I swear my stomach dropped clean to the floor. I hadn't seen a child in over a year. Not since I'd buried my son. Thought maybe my mind was playing tricks. I opened the small peephole slit in the door and peeked out. 2 kids stood just beyond the porch light. A boy and a girl. Couldn't have been older than 10. They were pale, their clothes old-fashioned, like something out of a photo album. No coats, no backpacks. The boy wore a collared shirt buttoned to the top, stained with dust. The girl had a dress on, bare arms in the cold wind. They didn't look cold, they just stood there. Not shivering, not moving, just looking up at me. "Mister," the boy said again, "please, let us in." That voice wasn't right. Too steady. Like someone reading lines they memorized. I felt my skin crawl. I opened the door just a crack. "You kids okay? You lost?" The girl spoke this time. "We need help. May we come in?" I stepped outside onto the porch, flashlight ready in my hand. The sky rumbled. I glanced behind them, expecting to see a car or maybe a lost parent. Nothing. Just dark desert, cliffs, and that coming storm. "Where are your folks?" I asked. They didn't answer. That's when I noticed their eyes. Black. No whites, no irises, just solid, inky darkness. Both of them. I froze, took a step back without meaning to. I can't let you in," I said. The boy tilted his head. "We can't come in unless you say yes." Then both of them smiled. Not wide, not creepy, but like they knew something I didn't. I slammed the door, locked it, bolted it, backed away until I bumped the rocking chair. My breath was fast, too fast. I turned on the flashlight and swept it across the room, like I expected something to be inside with me already. Then came a sound I'll never forget. The wood of the cabin creaked like it was being pushed in from all sides. The walls moaned, the lantern light flickered. A low buzzing started in my ears like bees in my skull. I grabbed the shotgun from the rack, and then I remembered. Frankie. He was camping about a mile from here. Came in earlier that afternoon to ask about the weather and safe water spots. Young. Biologist. Smart, friendly, harmless. I grabbed the radio and called out, my voice cracking. Frankie, you there? Come in. This is Cal. Do not, I repeat, do not open your tent for anything tonight. Static. Then his voice, weak and fuzzy. I already saw them, Cal. They were at my tent hours ago, but what? They were outside my apartment last week. I didn't say anything, thought I was dreaming, but it was them. The line cut off. Dead silence. No more coyotes. No more storm. Just those 3 soft knocks on the door. Again. Tap, tap, tap. I wasn't always a man who jumped at knocks in the dark. Back in the day, before all this, I was just a guy trying to keep his family together. Had a wife named Maggie, strong, sweet, laughed like she didn't have a care in the world. We met at a church picnic when I was 21 and she was 19. I knew right then I'd marry her, and I did. Our boy Sam came along 5 years later. He had her eyes and my stubborn streak. Sam loved the woods even as a little kid, always running, always climbing, fearless like he thought the world couldn't touch him. But the world touches everyone. Pneumonia hit him hard the winter he turned 7. Took him fast. Maggie never recovered. Not really. And after she passed, in her sleep a year later, her heart just gave out. I stopped pretending I could fix anything. I left my job in the city, packed up what little was left, and came out here. Bitter Creek offered isolation, quiet, and no people. Seemed like the right place for a man trying to forget the sound of his son's laughter. Now it's just me in this place. The outpost is small, just one big room with a cot, a desk, a wood stove, and shelves lined with dusty manuals and canned goods. A tin cup hangs from a nail by the sink. No plumbing. I keep rain barrels outside for water. There's a small outhouse 50 yards down the path. I don't go out there after dark, not anymore. And always there's the harmonica. It sits in my coat pocket. Maggie's. She used to play for Sam when he was sick. You Are My Sunshine was his favorite. I haven't played it since the funeral. Not once, but I keep it with me like it holds her voice inside, waiting. Earlier that day, before the knock, Frankie Lou stopped by. He was one of the good ones, young, maybe 25, fresh, out of Berkeley, with a head full of science and a heart full of wonder. Said he was studying desert plants and animal migrations. Had a voice like soft sand and a camera that looked way too expensive for backcountry work. Frankie set up camp about a mile east, near one of the old Firewatch trails. He came into the outpost to ask if I'd seen any mountain lions. I hadn't, but the coyotes had been noisy all week, and that's never a good sign. We talked a while. He shared a can of peaches. Told me his parents were immigrants who worked 16-hour days so he could go to college. Said his mom still cried every time he went camping, swore something bad would happen. I liked him. He reminded me of Sam. Curious, smart, just a little too fearless. Before he left, he pulled out a small black notebook and flipped it open. Hey, Cal, he said. Ever hear stories about weird stuff in this area? I raised an eyebrow. Weird how? Like, not animals, people. But not really people, you know. I stayed quiet, he went on. Someone told me about these kids, black-eyed kids. They show up out here sometimes. Asked to come in. You heard of that? I gave a short laugh. Sounds like a ghost story to scare rookies. Maybe, he said, not smiling. But there've been sightings across the state, even up north, exact same story every time. Let me guess, I said. Kids knock, asked to come in, people let them in. Then poof, something bad happens? He nodded. Sometimes they vanish, sometimes the people do. I waved it off, but something about the way he looked at me stuck. Not scared exactly, just unsettled. Like he'd seen something already and didn't want to admit it. He left around dusk, just as the sky turned that dusty purple that only desert storms bring. Said he'd check back tomorrow. I watched him disappear down the trail, camera bouncing against his hip. That was the last time I saw Frankie standing. Now, back in the outpost with that second knock ringing in my ears, all I could think about was what he said. They asked to come in. I didn't open the door again. Just stood there, shotgun in hand, heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I went to the back window, careful not to make noise, pulled the curtain just an inch. They were still there. The boy stood closer now, right at the edge of the porch. The girl behind him staring up at the roof like she could see through it. Neither moved, neither blinked, just those black endless eyes staring at the door. I backed away and turned off the lantern. The room plunged into shadow, the only light now from the flickering storm outside. The wind picked up again, whistling through the cracks in the walls. A low hum started. Not from the wind, not from the building, from somewhere deeper, like a vibration inside my chest. I held onto the shotgun tighter, whispered Maggie's name without meaning to. Another knock, tap, tap, tap. Then something new. A voice, soft and low, pressed against the back of my mind like a memory I didn't want. Calvin. It was Sam's voice. I stood there, not moving, not breathing. Calvin. It was my son's voice, soft, familiar, but wrong, too clear, too smooth. Like it was pulled from a memory and laid flat. No one had said my full name out loud in years. Not since Maggie. I gripped the shotgun tighter. My hand was slick with sweat. Outside, the kids hadn't moved an inch. But that voice, it didn't come from them. It came from inside my head. Or maybe just outside the wall, I couldn't tell. The room felt smaller now, like the shadows had pushed the walls in closer when I wasn't looking. I needed air. I backed toward the window and cracked. It opened just enough to let the breeze in, but instead of clean desert wind, something sour slid through, like pennies and spoiled milk. I gagged, shut it fast. The coyotes were still gone, no owls, no bugs, just silence, wrapped so tight around the outpost it rang in my ears. I picked up the radio again, turned the dial and pressed the button. Frankie, you copy? You there? Static, I tried again. Frankie, if you can hear me, say something, anything. Then crackling. A voice barely above a whisper. I can't get away from them, my heart sank. Where are you? No answer. Then, they keep smiling. They keep saying my name. His voice broke on the last word. He sounded like a little boy. Not the confident, science-loving man I met this morning. I grabbed my boots, shoved them on fast, and stuffed the harmonica into my coat pocket without thinking. If he was out there, I couldn't leave him alone. I stepped toward the door, and the knock came again. This time it was loud. Bang, bang, bang. No rhythm, no softness, like fists from something that didn't care about getting let in anymore. I froze mid-step. Outside, the porch groaned. Footsteps. Small ones, but heavy, like a child dragging lead boots. I moved back toward the wall and peeked through a crack in the boards. The kids were gone, but muddy footprints, bare, small, and wet, now covered the porch. And they were facing inward, like someone had been pressing their face against the wood. The shotgun felt useless. I tried the radio again. Frankie, do not let them in. Lock your tent, keep your eyes down, don't answer them. More static, then a scream, short, cut off. My throat went dry. I grabbed the flashlight and turned it on. The beam wobbled over the walls, the floor, the ceiling. Nothing. There. But the shadows had shifted. One chair was now facing the door. I hadn't moved it. The air got colder. I stepped toward the wood stove to throw in another log, but as I reached for the pile, I saw it. A handprint, right on the inside of the window. Small. Greasy. Like it had been pressed from inside the room. Backed up so fast I knocked over the lantern. It crashed, light flickering out. Darkness rushed in. The flashlight shook in my hand as I swept the beam across the walls. Nothing. But I heard whispering now. All around me. From above. Below. Inside. The walls. Calvin, let us in. Don't be afraid. Then came the crying. A child sobbing. It was so real, so raw, I almost opened the door again. But I knew better. That wasn't Sam, it wasn't anyone. It was them. I walked to the door, took a breath and yelled, "You're not welcome here. Leave." Silence. Then one last whisper. This time from right behind me. "You already did." I spun around. Nothing there. But the harmonica in my pocket felt warm. I pulled it out and stared at it like it might speak. The whispers stopped. For a second I was alone again. Then the room shook, hard. The whole outpost groaned floor to ceiling. Dust rained from the rafters. I dropped to one knee, covered my head, thinking maybe it was the storm. But then the smell came back. Stronger, rotting meat and iron and wet dirt. Like something dead had. Crawled inside the walls and never left. I stood slowly, checked every window, every door, locked, sealed. But I didn't feel safe. I felt watched. Then the light from the flashlight started to fade. Not flicker, just dim, like something was draining it slowly. The batteries were brand new. I turned the knob. Nothing. I stood there in the dark, breathing shallow, trying to listen, past the pounding of my own heart. And then I heard it. A soft scrape from the roof. Something was crawling across the top of the outpost. Small hands, nails scratching wood. A second later, dust fell from the ceiling beam. Another scratch, then a whisper, inches from my ear. "You left him." I dropped the flashlight. It clattered to the ground. The voices were in my head now. Deeper, colder, sharp like ice cracking inside my bones. I ran to the cot, sat down, hands over my ears. "Stop," I whispered. "Leave me alone." I felt something tug at my coat sleeve, just a little pull. I jerked away, stood up, aimed the shotgun at the dark corner of the room. But no one was there. The harmonica fell out of my pocket and hit the floor. A single note rang out, clear, pure, like Maggie used to play. And just like that, the scratching stopped. The harmonica's single note hung in the air, clear as daylight. It didn't echo. It didn't fade. It just sat there. Like the room was holding its breath, and so was I. Then I realized something strange. After that note rang out, the whispering stopped. No more scratching, no more tugging at my coat, just silence again. But this time it wasn't heavy. It was still, almost peaceful. I leaned down, picked up the harmonica, and held it in both hands. My fingers were shaking. I'd forgotten how small it was. Just a simple silver mouthpiece. Maggie used to say it sounded like the sky when it cried. I didn't know what made me do it, but I brought it to my lips and played 2 soft notes. They came out wobbly, breathy, like wind through an old pipe. Still the air didn't shift. No sounds from the roof. No pressure in my head. It was like the music pushed whatever they were back. Like a line they couldn't cross. I should have played longer, but I stopped, and they came back. It started with the lights. My flashlight, dead just a few minutes ago, flickered back on by itself. But it didn't shine right. The beam stretched thin, bent at weird angles like it was being pulled. Then the shadows started moving. Not in a spooky way, not like a movie. It was quieter than that. The shadow from the desk shifted even though nothing had moved. The outline of my chair stretched across the floor like the sun had changed position, but there was no sun. And then I saw it, one of the kids, inside the room. The boy. He was just standing in the corner behind the stove, his pale hands hanging by his sides. His head tilted like a dog trying to understand a new sound. I hadn't heard the door open. I hadn't heard anything. I raised the shotgun. "Get out of here. You're not welcome." He didn't move, didn't blink. Those black eyes locked on mine. Then I blinked, and he was closer, a step nearer. Still no sound, no shift, just closer. I aimed again, heart hammering. I said go, but I couldn't. Fire. My hands were locked up, frozen. Then, from behind me, the girl whispered, "You said we could come in." I spun so fast I nearly dropped the gun. She stood right behind me, inches away, her head just level with my chest, her skin pale like wax, her lips too red for her face, her eyes just pits, hollow, endless. I backed away fast, bumping into the table. The harmonica clattered again, and both children turned to look at it. For the first time, their faces changed. They looked afraid, not scared of me, scared of it. And then the girl hissed. It was sharp, high-pitched, like a scream inside a whisper. She vanished, not ran, not walked. Just gone, the boy too, like they'd blinked out of the air. The shadows shrank back to normal. The lights returned to their shape. My knees gave out, and I fell into the chair. My whole body shook. But I wasn't safe yet, because that's when the radio flared back to life. Frankie, his voice, raw, broken, burst through the static. Cal, help, I jumped up. Frankie, where are you? They're inside me. What? What does that mean? I didn't say yes, I swear. His voice turned to sobbing. Then silence, then a snap, like bone breaking. The radio went dead again. I stood there frozen. There was no road, no help, and Frankie. And, God, I didn't even know where to look, but I had to try. I grabbed the flashlight, the harmonica, the shotgun, and I opened the door. The outside was quiet. The storm clouds had rolled past, leaving behind stars and still air. No wind, no coyotes, just quiet. I followed the narrow trail toward Frankie's campsite. My boots crunched over dirt and stone. Each step felt like it echoed for miles. Halfway there, I heard it again. A soft humming, a tune I hadn't heard in years. Maggie's lullaby. Not a recording, not a memory. Something was humming it from the woods. I stopped cold. My fingers gripped the harmonica. I pulled it out and played 3 notes, not the full song. Just enough. The humming stopped. I kept walking. I reached the camp and stopped short. Frankie's tent was flattened, shredded like it had been through a storm. But everything else, his gear, his notebooks, his jacket, was untouched. And there, he was, sitting up against a rock, eyes open, mouth open, but not breathing. His face was pale, his lips blue, his eyes pure black, no light in them, no soul. I dropped to my knees. Frankie, I shook him. Nothing. Then his mouth twitched, and in a voice that wasn't his, I heard, "You played it wrong." I jumped back. The harmonica dropped again. Then he slumped over, dead for sure this time. The wind picked up out of nowhere, and I saw them. At the edge of the trees, dozens of them. Children, all still, all watching, all with black eyes. Some looked older, some younger, all pale, none moved. I picked up the harmonica and raised it to my lips. I didn't know what else to do. So I played. "You are my sunshine." Their heads twitched, their bodies jerked. "You make me happy." They began to flicker. Flicker, like lights going out, when skies are gray. One by one they vanished, like smoke, like dreams, like nightmares finally ending. They vanished. One by one, those black-eyed kids blinked out of the forest like smoke curling into the night. I don't know how long I stood there, holding that harmonica like it was a weapon. My knees ached, my throat burned, but I kept playing, just in case. Soft and shaky, breath by breath. When the last note faded, so did the wind. It was dead quiet again. Frankie's body slumped sideways, eyes still open. No blood, no sign of struggle. Just gone. Like a light turned off. I knelt beside him, whispered, a prayer I hadn't said in years, and pulled his sleeping bag over his face. He didn't deserve to go out like that. I looked up at the sky. Stars everywhere, clear as I'd ever seen. It felt wrong, like the world shouldn't be that peaceful after what had just happened. I stayed there kneeling by that rock until the cold made my fingers stiff. Then I stood and walked back to the outpost. The cabin was just like I left it, lanterns still broken, the table still scratched, the window still marked with that tiny greasy handprint, but the air felt lighter now. The voices were gone, the shadows sat still. I sat on the edge of my cot, the harmonica in my lap, and just breathed. I thought of Maggie, of Sam, of the nights she played lullabies and how his laughter used to echo through our old house. I'd tried to forget those memories when I came out here. But maybe that was the mistake. Maybe the past doesn't disappear just because you bury it. I stayed up till the sun rose, not daring to sleep. When the first light crept over the ridge, painting the hills in gold, I opened the front door, and there they were, small footprints, dozens of them, lining the porch, circling the cabin, trailing off into the desert. They hadn't just come from nowhere. They'd been everywhere. By noon, I hiked back to Frankie's camp with a shovel and a heavy heart. I buried him under a tall pine, marked the spot with a stone, and packed up his notes and camera. I didn't look through them. Not yet. I found his radio too, still turned on, still buzzing with faint static. Before I left, I sat next to the grave and played one last song. You Are My Sunshine. It didn't make anything better, but it felt right. That afternoon, I called it in, used the old shortwave radio to reach the ranger station on the other side of the ridge. Said Frankie had died in the night, some kind of sudden failure. I didn't explain, didn't mention the children, or the black eyes, or the voice that had whispered my name from behind the walls. Wouldn't have mattered anyway. No one would believe it. They sent a recovery team, but by the time they got there, the storm had erased all the prints. Even the ones on the porch. The official report said unknown natural causes. But I knew the truth, and I wasn't sticking around to let it happen again. I packed my things the next day, left the badge on the desk, along with a note that just said, "Station secure. Keep the doors locked after dark." I took the harmonica with me, didn't look back. Never did. People say the Bitter Creek outpost is cursed, that rangers stationed there don't last long, that hikers hear soft knocking at their tents in the night, that children's voices call out from empty trails asking for help. They think it's stories, old campfire tales, but I know better. They're real, and they're still out there. Waiting. Sometimes I'll be sitting in my trailer in Arizona, drink in hand, and I'll hear something outside. A knock. 3 soft taps. I never open the door. I just reach for the harmonica, press it to my lips, and play the same 3 notes. The same lullaby. And the knocking always stops. Frankie's camera, I finally opened it years later. Most of the pictures were fine. Plants, animal tracks, rock formations. But one made my blood run cold. A photo of the outpost at night, taken from a distance, from the tree line. The porch light was on, and standing beneath it were 2 small figures, hand in hand, looking straight at the camera. Their eyes were black holes. Last month, I got a letter in the mail, no return address. Inside was a newspaper clipping. New ranger assigned to Bitter Creek Station, the article, showed a young woman smiling, full of hope. Under the photo, someone had written in shaky black ink, "Did you tell her not to answer?" I lit a match and burned the letter right there in the sink. I don't know if it makes a difference. But if you ever hear knocking out in the woods, don't open the door, don't talk to them. And whatever you do, don't say yes. I've been a ranger in Red River Gorge for nearly 12 years, and I've seen storms that made grown men cry. But that night in '79, that storm wasn't just thunder and rain. It was something else. It felt alive. It started with a sharp crack of lightning that split the sky like a jagged scar. I was in the watchtower about 40 feet above the tree line, sipping on cold coffee and watching dark clouds roll over the cliffs. The kind of clouds that don't just bring rain, they bring warnings. I could feel the air change. It was thick, heavy like the forest itself was holding its breath. "Storm's moving in fast," I said, mostly to myself. Then I clicked on the radio. "Base, this is Tower 2. Flash flood risks up. Rain's gonna pound this place to hell. Over. Static." Waited, tried again, still nothing. That was the first thing that felt wrong. The second thing? The silence. Red River's always got noise. Birds, crickets, coyotes howling, frogs chirping near the stream. Even in storms, you can hear the forest fighting back. But not that night. The pie. Wind howled, sure, but the forest was dead quiet. I stepped out on the wooden deck of the tower, rain hitting sideways like 1,000 needles. I scanned the trees below with my flashlight. That's when I saw it. Movement. Just a shape at first. A flicker. Might have been a shadow, might have been something else. It darted between trees way too fast for any person. I lowered the beam. Looked again. Then a fox shot out of the woods below, bolted like the devil himself was on its tail. Poor thing was soaked, eyes wide, fur matted down and torn like it had been in a fight. And then, nothing. No rustle. No birds taking off. Not even the fox's footsteps once it vanished. Only rain and wind and that gut-deep wrong feeling I hadn't had since Nam. I radioed again. Tower 2 to base. I need confirmation on radio comms. Over. Silence. I felt the metal badge in my jacket pocket. My brother's badge. He disappeared out here in '73. Hiker. Experienced. We never found a body. I kept that badge with me ever since. Every time I held it, I told myself I'd never let someone go missing out here again. Never. Graves. A voice snapped me back. Riley Boone, the new cadet, was jogging toward the tower through the mud. Rain slapping his poncho. Eager kid. Green as grass, but with heart. You picked one hell of a night to train, I muttered, as he stomped up the steps. He shook the water off. Sir, power lines are down across Trail 4. I marked it with hazard tape, but... He hesitated. Something's weird. The birds. They stopped singing. It's like they all just vanished. I gave him a long look. You noticed that too, huh? He nodded, dripping. I didn't say anything, just handed him a towel. The kid had sharp instincts. Good. He'd need 'em. We sat in the tower for a while, watching the storm from above. Rain hammered the roof. The whole forest shimmered like it was breathing. Thunder rolled low, deep in the gorge. Then lightning flashed. And in that split second of white light, I swear I saw something, standing near the edge of the trees. Tall, thin, antlers gone just as quick. I stood up too fast, knocked over my coffee. Boone noticed. You saw it too? I didn't answer. I just grabbed the binoculars, scanned the trees. Nothing but shadows dancing in the wind. I tried the radio again. Static. We weren't getting out tonight, not until the storm passed. Still, I couldn't shake that feeling in my bones. The same one I felt when choppers went quiet in Vietnam, right before things went bad. Like nature knew something we didn't. And then I heard it. Faint just beneath the wind, a whisper. Low and broken like a man who hadn't spoken in years. Toby. My spine stiffened. I looked at Boone. Did you say something? He shook his head. No, sir, the voice came again. This time just one word. Found. I gripped the railing, heart pounding like it was trying to crawl out of my chest. The forest wasn't just quiet anymore. It was watching. Rain or not. Thunder or not. Something out there wanted us to come down. And I was starting to think it wasn't done with me. Not yet. I never planned on becoming a park ranger. Life just pushed me here. After Vietnam, I didn't want noise, didn't want crowds. I sure didn't want to be anyone's hero. I just wanted trees, wind, and enough quiet to stop hearing the screams in my head. So I found it. This patch of land deep in Kentucky, the Red River Gorge, rocky cliffs, endless trails. Dangerous if you're not careful, but peaceful if you respect it. The kind of place that leaves you alone if you leave it alone. My name's Toby Graves. I'm 42 years old. I've got scars up and down my arms. Not all from the war. Some are from this job. Some are from trying to save people who didn't listen. Others, I can't explain. I live alone in a small cabin not far from the ranger station. I keep my brother's tin badge in my left chest pocket. He disappeared out here 6 years ago, just gone. His name was Jake. They never found a body, not a boot, not a bone, not even a scrap of his map. Search teams combed every damn trail. I led 3 of them myself. Nothing. I don't believe. He just got lost. Jake was tough. Smarter than me even, and now here I am, still waiting. Still watching this forest for signs that it might give him back. Even just a hint. A clue. I never talk about him to anyone. But when Boone arrived, something told me this kid needed to know the real dangers of this place. Not the ones on trail. Maps. The ones that hide in the quiet. Riley Boone was 22. Blonde hair, skinny frame. The kind of kid who still thought flashlights were cooler than fear. His hands shook a little when he held the radio. But I saw something in him. He wanted to prove himself. Maybe too much. "Why'd you sign up for this job?" I asked him once, a few weeks before that storm. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "Because I got lost in these woods as a kid. I swore I'd learn 'em and help people who lose their way." It was honest, maybe a little foolish, but I respected it. That night, I was supposed to be training him on trail markers, flood protocols, and tower reports. Simple stuff. Instead, we were trapped in a watchtower in the middle of a storm, with something outside that didn't feel right. The wind started pushing harder. The windows rattled. Rain didn't fall down. It slapped sideways like it was trying to break in. Boone stood near the glass, peering out. "It's like..." "The trees are moving," he said softly. "They always move in storms," I replied. He nodded, but I could tell he didn't believe that anymore. I sat back down and pulled out a flare kit from the emergency box. Just in case. I always kept my hands busy when the air felt wrong. Quiet helps me think, but movement keeps me sane. "Ever seen anything out here?" Boone asked after a while. I paused. "Like what?" "You know, weird stuff. Stuff that doesn't make sense." I didn't. "Look at him. Plenty." He waited, thinking I'd go on. I didn't. Instead, I asked, "You believe in that kind of thing?" He shrugged. "My granddad used to tell stories about spirits, creatures that lived in the woods and took people who didn't show respect." Stared out into the rain. "Sometimes stories are the only things that make sense." Thunder cracked again. Close this time. Real close. I checked the emergency map on the wall. "Flash floods are likely tonight," I said. "We stick to the tower unless the radio clears. At sunrise, we'll check the valley." Boone nodded, but I could see it on his face. He was spooked. The forest felt like it was pressing in on us, closer by the minute. He pulled out a photo from his wallet. Showed it to me. "My sister," he said. "She's 10, loves hiking, thinks I'm a hero now that I wear a badge." I smiled, just barely. "She's proud. That matters." He smiled back. But it didn't last long. Another lightning flash lit up the trees, and I swear, just for a second, I saw those same antlers again. Still, watching. Boone saw it too. His mouth dropped open, but no words came out. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped outside. Just a few feet onto the wooden landing. Nothing. But wind and rain and shadows. But then I felt it. A pull, like something just beyond the tree line was calling me. Not with a voice. With something deeper. I squeezed my brother's badge in my pocket. I knew that feeling. It was the same feeling I had when Jake vanished. Boone came out behind me. "Sir, you think this is just a storm?" I didn't answer. Because I wasn't sure anymore. At first light, the rain finally slowed. The sky stayed dark, but the thunder rolled farther off, like whatever was coming had already passed, or was waiting for us to come find it. Boone and I didn't say much. We just packed our gear and climbed down the tower. Our boots sank deep into the wet mud, squishing with every step. "Trail 4?" he asked. I nodded. "Let's check the blockage. Make sure no one got caught in the wash." We started walking. Trees creaked. Water dripped from every branch. The forest smelled strong, wet earth, pine, and something else, like metal, like blood. We hiked for 20 minutes before the trail turned strange. First, the usual markers were missing. Then, we found claw marks on a fallen log. Deep ones. 3 long slashes like something huge had raked it in passing. "Bear?" Boone asked. "Maybe," I said. But I'd never seen a bear make marks like that. Too wide. Too straight. We moved slower now, eyes scanning the woods. I kept my hand near my flare gun, even though I hadn't used it in years. Then Boone stopped. "Cold. Sir," he pointed. "There. At the base of a twisted sycamore tree, someone had nailed torn clothes to the bark. Not hung. Nailed. A torn shirt sleeve, pants, even a boot tongue, all flattened and pinned like some sick trophy. The nails were thick, old, rusty. My chest tightened. Boone stepped forward and reached for one of the pieces, but I stopped him. "Don't touch." He looked at me, confused. Why not? Because whoever or whatever did this wanted someone to see it. And we just did. I circled the tree. Behind it, tucked in the weeds, lay a deer. Dead, but not just dead. Drained. Bloodless. Skin pale, stomach untouched. Eyes wide open. Mouth stiff in a frozen scream. There wasn't a single wound on the outside, but it looked like something had sucked the life out of it. Boone backed away and gagged. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. This ain't nature. This is a warning. We pressed on. The trail dipped low where the creek ran through. Water moved fast, too fast. It hissed over the rocks. That's when Boone pointed again. There. You see those? I squinted across. The gorge, lights faint, bobbing like lanterns in the trees. No color, just white, cold glow. Moving slowly, too smooth, like they floated. I pulled out my binoculars. Nothing. Gone. I lowered the glass. The lights were still there to the naked eye. But the moment I tried to focus, they vanished again. Boone whispered, "Could be campers." No one's stupid enough to be camping in this weather. Then we heard something worse. My name, whispered. Faint. Toby. I whipped around. Nothing. It came again, closer. Toby, I found it. I froze. My feet wouldn't move. That voice, it wasn't just familiar. It was Jake. Same tone, same rhythm, like he was right behind me. Boone grabbed my arm. "Who was that?" I didn't answer. The voice called again. "Come see Toby." The hairs on my arms stood straight up. My head pounded. I looked around, breathing fast. "Toby?" Boone asked. "My brother," I whispered. "That's my brother's voice." He blinked. "I thought he went missing." He did. We stood there, caught between reason and fear. Something was copying Jake's voice. Or worse, it had. Him. Boone looked pale. "Sir, we need to go back," but I couldn't, not yet. I stepped forward, drawn in. Like the trees themselves were leaning back, making space for me to pass through. "Toby!" Then the lights appeared again. Closer this time, flickering through the fog. Boone shouted, "Stop!" I turned and saw something behind him. A shape, tall, thin, eyes glowing pale blue. It vanished as fast as it came. I yanked Boone by the sleeve. "Run! Now!" We didn't ask questions, we just moved. Branches snapped underfoot. Rain started again, softer now, but cold and sharp. As we ran, the forest didn't feel like the forest anymore. It felt watched. Every step felt like we were going deeper into something we shouldn't have touched. Boone tripped once, hit his knee, but got back up fast. We didn't stop until we reached the shelter post, an old wooden shed halfway up the ridge. I slammed the door shut and locked it. Inside it was dark. Damp, but safe, or so we thought. Boone collapsed onto a bench, shaking. "What the hell is going on out here?" I didn't have an answer, but I knew one thing for sure. Something had been waiting for us, watching us, and it wasn't finished yet. Outside, the wind picked up again, and in the distance... Found you, Toby. The shelter walls were thin, barely stronger than cardboard. Every gust of wind made them groan. Rain dripped through cracks in the roof, falling on the floor in slow, steady beats, like a ticking clock. Boone sat on the bench, knees pulled up to his chest. His eyes were wide, like he hadn't blinked in minutes. I crouched by the door, flare gun in my lap, trying to think straight. My heart hadn't stopped racing since I heard that voice. Toby. It wasn't just a whisper. It was wrong. Like the voice had bones in it, like it echoed inside your head instead of around you. "I need to know something," Boone said quietly. I looked at him. That voice. "You're sure it was your brother?" I nodded. "Too sure," he swallowed. Then how is that even possible? I didn't answer, because I didn't know. All I knew was that we weren't dealing with any animal. The forest wasn't sick. It was hunting. A loud snap outside made us both jump. I stood and peeked through a gap in the boards. Lightning flashed, and I saw it. A shape, tall, bony, wrapped in skin so tight you could count its ribs. It moved between the trees, head twitching, like it was sniffing the air. Its arms were too long, its fingers hung down like claws, and on its head, antlers, big ones, sharp and twisted. I whispered, "It's here." Boone froze. "What is it?" "I don't know the name," I said. "But it's not human." The creature stepped closer. Lightning hit again. Its eyes lit up blue, glowing in the dark. Then it vanished into the shadows, faster than anything should move. Boone backed away from the wall. "Did it see us?" I didn't answer, because I wasn't sure it mattered. It knew where we were. We stayed quiet, just breathing. Then a knock on the wall. Knock, knock. We jumped. It came again. Knock, knock. But now from the other side. Then we heard my voice, coming from outside. "Boone, open the, door." "It's me." His face went white. I didn't say anything, I whispered. But the voice was mine. Exact. "I'm hurt," it said again. "Help me." Boone grabbed a wooden plank and held it like a bat. We both backed toward the far wall. The doorknob jiggled. The knock came again. "Boone," my voice repeated. "You left me out here." Then it laughed. A low, broken laugh like it had never learned how. The air turned sour, rotten. Boone gagged and stumbled to the corner. "Oh my God, it smells like something died." It was worse than death, like burnt hair and meat left in the sun. I could barely breathe. We had to move. I checked the back window. It was cracked, but it would fit us one at a time. "You first," I whispered. Boone climbed out fast. I followed. Outside, the forest felt warped. Trees leaned in strange directions like they were bending away from something nearby. Branches, twisted into shapes that didn't belong in nature. We didn't talk. We just ran. Mud flew under our boots. The smell followed us. Every few steps, lightning flashed, and each time we saw it again. Behind us, closer. Its head jerked side to side as it ran, but its legs didn't make a sound. Then the voice changed again. Now it was Boone's. "Toby, help me. I fell." I stopped cold. The voice was ahead of us now. I turned slowly, but Boone was behind me. "It's not me," he whispered. The thing was toying with us, playing both sides, trying to split us up. We kept moving. The trees opened up to a ledge that overlooked the gorge, and there it stood, right in front of us, full view, the Wendigo. Its body was tall and starved. Its skin looked dry, like cracked leather. The antlers curved high into the sky. Its eyes burned blue like frostbite. Its chest rose and fell, but it didn't breathe like a man. It hissed, and it smiled. That smile wasn't made for people. It didn't have lips, just teeth. So many teeth. Boone raised the flare gun. "Wait," I said. "Don't waste it." The creature stepped forward. Then it mimicked my brother's scream, the same scream I heard in my nightmares. "Toby!" I dropped to my knees. It knew. It knew everything. Boone ran forward screaming, and the Wendigo moved, so fast I didn't see it happen. Just a blur. Boone was gone. Not a sound, not a scream. Just gone. I shouted his name, no answer. Just the wind and that voice, now deeper. "Found you." I stood there frozen. Rain poured down my face, mixing with sweat. Boone was gone. Just like that. No scream, no sound, no trace. 1 second he was there. And the next, nothing but empty woods and the stench of rot. I wanted to call out for him, but something deep in me, something old and scared, told me not to. Because whatever took him was still out there, and it was listening. I backed away from the edge of the cliff. My boots slipped on the wet rocks, but I didn't fall. Not yet. Then, I heard it again, my voice, but warped. Boone, help me, I can't feel my legs. The thing was mocking me. It wasn't just trying to scare us. It was trying to break us apart, wear us down, make us easy to catch. But it had made a mistake. It thought I'd fall for the same trick again. Not this time. I took the flare gun out, from my belt. My hands shook. I had 2 flares left, that's it. I turned slowly, eyes scanning the trees. The forest had gone still again. No wind, no rain hitting the leaves, no sounds at all. Just me and the thing. I moved along the cliffside, each step careful. The path curved, narrowing as it went. One wrong move and I'd drop straight into the gorge. I saw bones along the trail, small ones. Animal, maybe not. And I saw scratches in the rock, long and deep, like claws had dug into it again and again, trying to climb up, or trying to drag something down. That's when I heard Boone's voice one last time. Soft. Toby. But this time it didn't echo, it was right behind me. I spun around, and there it was. The Wendigo, 10 feet tall. Bones sticking out of its skin. Antlers dripping with moss and bits of something darker. Its mouth opened, rows of teeth. And from deep in its throat, it spoke. Not in words. Not in English. It mimicked a scream. Jake's scream. My knees almost buckled. Then, lunged. I jumped out of the way, barely dodging it. My arms scraped the rocks, but I kept moving. I had one plan, one shot. There was a rock ledge up ahead, high and wide just above the trail. Years ago, a landslide almost took it down. All it needed was a little push. If I could get the creature. On the trail below it, I could bring that ledge down. I ran. The Wendigo chased me, silent and fast. I reached the ledge, climbed it fast and sloppy. Then I turned, flare gun ready. The Wendigo followed, stepping right below me. I fired. The first flare hit the dirt. No fire, just a spark. It looked up at me. I fired the second one, direct hit. The flare slammed into the edge of the rocks, and with a loud crack, the ledge groaned. Rocks shifted. The cliff gave way. The Wendigo looked up as boulders came crashing down. It didn't run, it didn't scream. It just watched me as it vanished under the weight. The ground shook. Then it was quiet again. Too quiet. I climbed down slowly, breath heavy, heart hammering. Smoke rose from the crushed trail. No sign of Boone. No sign of the creature, just silence. Then I looked down and realized my left arm was hanging useless. Dislocated. Maybe broken. I'd hit it bad during the fall, but I didn't care. I was alive. I stumbled back toward the station. Took me 2 hours, maybe more. I don't remember much. My head felt heavy, like I was floating. They found me the next morning, mud-covered, bleeding, cold. They asked where Boone was. I couldn't answer. They never found him. No tracks. No body. Just a torn piece of his jacket stuck on a tree limb near the cliff. The official report called it an accident. Flash flood. Rookie ranger lost in the storm. But I knew the truth, and I never forgot what I saw. Years went by. I quit the job. Moved. Out of the gorge, but even now, sometimes when I'm alone, I hear it. That voice whispering in the wind. Sometimes it says, Toby. Other times it says, it's me. They say thunder doesn't lie. That night it didn't boom, it growled. Deep and long, like something warning me to turn back. But I didn't. I was already in too deep, and honestly, I think a part of me wanted to get lost out there. I was, hiking up Black Hollow Trail in the Great Smoky Mountains. It was almost 9 p.m., and the sky was a mess of black clouds and jagged lightning. But still, no rain. Just flashes of light behind the peaks and that slow, rumbling thunder that felt more alive than the wind itself. I'd been sent out to investigate 3 missing backpackers. Campers vanish all the time. People get turned around, or slip, or decide to ghost their lives for a while. But something about this one felt wrong. One of the boys called his sister the night before. He was sobbing, said the forest was watching him. The trail was dead silent. Not the kind of quiet you enjoy with a cup of coffee. No, the bad kind. No frogs, no wind through the trees, no birds. Just the sound of my boots crushing old leaves and something else. Something I didn't want to admit I heard at first. A slow, low humming like a deep machine turning over somewhere in the distance. Almost like the vibration you feel in your chest when a helicopter passes. But there was nothing in the air. The deeper I went, the more off everything felt. Trees leaned ever so slightly, as if bending inward toward the trail. My flashlight flickered, then steadied. I passed an old sign that used to say Black Hollow Overlook. Now it was snapped in half, the bottom burned. Then it happened. A black butterfly, huge, maybe the size of my palm, floated down and landed right on my nose. I froze, cross-eyed, staring at its wings. Then, like it had been waiting to die, it twitched once and just dropped dead right there. Fell off my face and hit the dirt. I crouched and looked at it. Wasn't squished. Wasn't crushed. It just stopped living. I stood up slowly, shining my light around. I whispered, "Okay, Curtis. Just the forest playing tricks." But even I didn't believe that. I took a deep breath and pushed forward. The trail narrowed, with black trees huddling closer together. Shadows danced in the flickering beam of my light. My ears popped once, like pressure had dropped. And the humming got louder, still low but closer, almost like it was inside the trees. That's when I smelled it, like hot wires and something burnt. Not fire, not smoke. More like old electronics melting in the sun. I covered my nose with my sleeve, heart thudding now. Something wasn't right. I turned to look behind me. Nothing. But the second I turned back, I saw them. 3 red lights up on the ridge, just hovering, not moving, not blinking. My breath caught. No, not lights, eyes. They were eyes. Glowing red and too far apart for any animal I knew. Maybe 15 feet. Boo, just watching me. I froze. The air felt heavier, like it wanted to push me down. The hum was inside my skull now. My flashlight buzzed and blinked out. Darkness. I reached for the backup on my belt with shaky hands. Fumbled. Clicked it on. The eyes were gone. Only the trees remained, still and silent. I wanted to call it in. I really did. But I couldn't bring myself to say it out loud. Not yet. Not until I was sure I wasn't losing it, so I just kept walking. Not because I was brave, because I didn't know what else to do. And because the whisper I thought I heard in the wind said, "You're not alone." I used to write stories for a living. Nothing big, mostly ghostwriting for horror books that never sold. After my 3rd manuscript got rejected, I gave up. I packed my things, moved back to Tennessee, and took the first stable job I could get. Park ranger in the Smokies. Less rejection, more peace. Or so I thought. My name's Curtis Dillard. I'm 34. And I've seen some strange things in the wild. Animal attacks, missing hikers, people gone too far off the path, and too far into their own minds. But that night was different. I don't talk much. Never have. People think I'm cold. Maybe I am. You learn to shut down when life keeps taking things from you. First my dream, then my son. His name's Ethan, he's 10 now. Or at least he was the last time I saw him. I made the mistake of trusting my ex-wife again. Told myself she was clean, that she'd changed. One weekend visit turned into a 6-month court mess, and I haven't held my boy since. I keep a photo of him in a silver locket around my neck. He's got my smile, but his mom's eyes, the kind that look like they're always searching for something. Maybe I wear the locket to feel less guilty. Maybe it's to remind myself that I don't deserve peace until I get him back. I was thinking about him that night. Every step deeper into the woods felt like another mile away from being the man he needed me to be. But it was my job to find those missing backpackers, and I wasn't about to fail again. The storm above rumbled low, dragging across the sky like a giant rolling over in bed. My boots were caked with mud, but the trail itself stayed strangely dry. Still no rain, just lightning flashing every now and then, lighting up the trees like bones. I paused to catch my breath near an old hollow tree. My ears were ringing. That weird humming hadn't gone away. It just changed pitch, like it was matching my heart rate. I rubbed my temples and sat on a flat rock. "Think, Curtis," I whispered to myself. "What makes sense?" But nothing did. Not the silence, not the butterfly, not those eyes. I reached under my jacket and clutched the locket, clicked it open. There was Ethan holding a Lego spaceship and grinning like the world was still good. "Just a job," I muttered. "Just another search." But I wasn't sure I believed that anymore. You spend enough time in the woods, and you start noticing things, like when the trees lean the wrong way, or when animals act nervous for no reason, or when your own thoughts feel twisted, like they aren't yours. That's how I felt just then, like my mind was fraying around the edges. I stood up and turned, toward the ridge where I'd seen the red eyes. My flashlight still worked, but it flickered now and then, like it wasn't happy being on. I scanned the path ahead. There was something carved into a tree, rough, fresh. I stepped closer. 3 letters. Run. Not help, or a name. Just that one word. Cut deep and fast. I traced the edges with my finger. The bark around it was bleeding sap. Something moved above. Not a squirrel. Not an owl. Wings. Heavy ones. I ducked and looked up, but the branches just swayed gently, as if something had just taken off. I didn't see it, but I felt the shift in air, like when a large bird flies close. Except this wasn't a bird. It was bigger, much bigger. I took one last look at the carving, then moved on, slower now, more careful. My radio crackled suddenly, just once. Then silence. That was odd. I tried to call base. "Dispatch, this is Ranger Dillard. Do you copy?" Nothing. I checked the battery. Full. Tried again. "Dillard to base. I'm on Black Hollow. Ridge. Strange activity. Please respond." Again. Nothing. Just the soft hiss of static. I clipped the radio back on my vest and sighed. This wasn't just a bad night. Something was messing with me, with the forest, and maybe with time itself. But I had a job to do. 3 campers were missing. And if they were still alive out here, they were running out of time. So I kept going, flashlight in hand, locket against my chest, even though every step forward felt like walking into a dream I couldn't wake up from. I found the campsite about an hour later. It was quiet. Too quiet. 3 tents. One small fire still burning like it had been fed just minutes before I got there. Metal mugs beside it, still warm when I touched them. No backpacks, no phones, no people. Just emptiness. I walked slowly around, the site checking for signs. Footprints were everywhere, but most had been dragged through, like someone had tried to erase them, or something had. The ground was too smooth in places, like it had been swept. A jacket was hanging from a branch. Near one of the tents, it fluttered gently, even though there was no wind. I reached up and pulled it down. The inside was stained with blood. Not much, just a few small spots, but enough to make my chest tighten. I called out, "Hello? Anyone here? This is Ranger Dillard. You're not in trouble. Just let me know you're okay." No answer. Not even an echo. That humming sound came back, low and steady, but now it had a rhythm, like it was pulsing, matching the beat of my heart. I shook my head and tried to focus. Something about the trees was wrong. They weren't standing still anymore. They were bending, not from wind. There was no wind. They were leaning in my direction. Not fast, not sharp, just barely, like they were curious, like they were watching. I stepped back. The air felt thicker now. My head was buzzing. I tried to swallow, but my mouth was dry. My nose started to bleed, just a little at first. I wiped it with my sleeve and cursed under my breath. I spun around. Nothing, but I felt it. Something was behind me. I turned again, fast this time, light swinging wild. Still nothing. No movement, no sound. Then I noticed something in the dirt, a notebook. I knelt down and picked it up. The cover was soft and torn. Inside were sketches, bad ones, Doodles of wings, red eyes, tall, thin shapes with clawed hands and long legs. One page was soaked with water. The ink had bled. I flipped to the last entry, just one line scrawled hard into the paper. It's not chasing us, it's showing us things. I blinked at the page. What did that mean? Suddenly I felt dizzy. The trees around me blurred. I saw something just for a moment like a flash in my mind. A massive fire. Smoke pouring from the woods, screams, sirens, helicopters overhead. I stumbled back, breathing fast. Then it was gone. The woods returned to normal, or what counted as normal in Black Hollow. Was it a vision? A memory? It didn't feel like mine. Pressed a hand to my chest. My locket was warm against my skin, almost hot. I clutched it tight as if it could anchor me. Then I heard something. Wings. Big ones. Not flapping. Gliding. I looked up. The trees were so tall I could barely see the top. But something moved above me. A shape, dark and fast, passed through the branches. Gone in a blink. I heard another noise then. Closer this time. Like static. Like whispering. It was saying my... To me, no voice I recognized, just... something in the air, brushing against my ears like a breeze that didn't exist. Curtis. I backed away from the camp. Then I saw them. Footprints. Fresh ones. Leading away into the woods. I followed carefully. They were barefoot, small, not made by boots. Not by grown men. Children? I followed them for a while until they just... stopped. No, more prints. I looked around and saw nothing but trees. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, I heard my son's voice. Dad, I froze. Dad, help me. It came from the trees. Soft, scared. I ran. I don't remember making the decision. My legs just moved. I sprinted toward the sound, heart pounding so hard it hurt. I didn't think. I couldn't. Branches whipped my flashlight bounced in my grip. Then I stopped. There was a clearing, and in the middle of it, a fire tower. Old, rusted, abandoned. But the light at the top was on. Flickering. I had never seen it lit before. No one had used that tower in years, and somehow I knew. That's where it was leading me. Where he was leading me, the one with the wings, the one with the whisper, the one that wasn't just watching anymore. I stood at the edge of the clearing, staring up at the old fire tower. It rose into the night. Like a skeleton, thin, creaking, rusted in places. The stairs spiraled upward, broken in a few spots, but still climbable. The light at the top kept flickering, like it couldn't make up its mind whether to stay on or go out. I didn't want to go up there, but I had to. Something had led me here. The voice, the footprints, the humming, all of it. I checked my flashlight. Still, working. Then I took the first step. The metal groaned under my boot. Windless air pressed against my back like it was trying to stop me. Every step creaked louder than the last. Halfway up, I looked down. Bad idea. The ground seemed farther than it should have been. Too far. I kept climbing. My breath came out sharp, fogging in the air. I could see my breath now. That didn't make sense. It was summer, still warm, but suddenly I could see it. Cold air wrapped around me like a wet blanket, and the humming. God, the humming. It got louder the higher I went. It wasn't just sound anymore. It was in me, buzzing behind my eyes, in my teeth, under my skin. Finally, I reached the top. The door to the small lookout room was hanging open. Light spilled out, soft and yellow, like candlelight. I stepped in. It was empty. Just a dusty old table, broken radio, and a single chair facing the window. But then I saw the wall. It was covered in writing. Dozens of messages, scratched in pencil, pen, even carved into the wood. All in different handwriting, some neat, some wild. All saying the same things over and over. It knows your name. Don't look at the eyes. Time doesn't work here. You can't stop the vision. He's already inside. I turned in a slow circle, heart pounding. My knees felt weak. Then I saw it sitting on the desk, a folded piece of paper. It had my name on it, Curtis. I reached out and opened it with shaking fingers. It was written in my handwriting. but I'd never written it. Kayla dies in the water. You tried, you failed again. Ethan follows next. I dropped the paper, stepped back. How? What the hell was happening? The light in the room pulsed once, bright and sharp. Then everything changed. The walls vanished. I was standing in the middle of a forest fire. The trees were burning. Screams echoed from every direction. A woman was running toward me, face melted, with fear. Her name tag read Kayla. I didn't know her, but I knew she was real. The flames swallowed her before she reached me. Then the fire vanished. I was standing on a street. Rain poured hard. Cars were crashed everywhere. I saw a body in the road, small, broken. It was Ethan. I ran to him, but no matter how close I got, he stayed far away. Like the road stretched beneath my feet. Like the world itself didn't want me to reach him. Then that world vanished too. I was back in the tower, sobbing, on my knees. Breathing hard, the light was gone. Darkness now, and something was outside. I didn't hear it walk. I didn't hear it fly. I just knew it was there. I stood up slowly and turned toward the window, and I saw him. Tall, thin, wings stretched out wider than the tower itself, black as coal. His body didn't move, but the wings twitched, like they were alive on their own. His head tilted slightly, and the eyes, those awful glowing red eyes, they weren't just looking at me, they were inside me, showing me things I didn't want to see. Memories that weren't mine, places that didn't exist, people crying, begging, faces melting, futures ruined. I felt myself slipping, like my mind was cracking, like a mirror hit with a hammer. I clutched the locket again hard enough to bruise. "No," I whispered. The Mothman tilted his head the other way. He didn't move closer. He didn't need to. I felt like if I kept looking at him, I'd go mad. So I did the only thing I could think of. I ran. Not down the stairs. Out the window. I jumped. Air rushed past me in a scream. Wind tore at my clothes. The world spun. Then, black. I didn't die. I hit the ground hard, real hard. But somehow I was still breathing. The pain was blinding. My ribs felt like shattered glass. My legs screamed every time I moved. But I was alive. And the world was quiet. No humming, no visions, no red eyes. Just the sound of crickets. Real ones this time. And the distant hoot of an owl. The forest felt normal again. I blinked up at the night sky. Stars twinkled above. The storm was gone. No clouds, no lightning, just silence. It took me a few minutes to sit up. Every movement hurt. My head was spinning. I touched my side and winced. Ribs were definitely cracked, maybe broken. But I was awake. I was real. The fire tower stood above me. Its light completely dead now. No glow, no sound. Just an old quiet structure against the trees. I looked around for movement, for anything. Nothing. Had I imagined it? Was it some kind of hallucination? A mental break? Then I felt the locket against my chest. Still warm, I opened it. Ethan's smile stared back at me. Somehow that grounded me. I don't know how long I lay there. Could have been 10 minutes, could have been an hour. But finally I forced myself up and started limping back to the trail. No more voices, no more trees bending, no red eyes. But I still felt like something was watching me. Not close, not even nearby. Just somewhere. Back at the campsite, everything was the same. Food still warm, tents still empty. But now I saw something I hadn't before. A trail of mud leading into the woods. It wasn't there earlier. I followed, slowly, carefully. Every step sent sharp pain through my side. The trail led to a shallow cave tucked behind a group of thick trees, and inside, I found them. The 3 backpackers, alive. They were huddled together, shivering, eyes wide, faces pale, one of them muttering something under his breath, repeating the same line over and over. It flew above us. It flew above us. It knew my name. They were dehydrated, scared half to death, but alive. They didn't remember much, just flashes. lights, voices. A feeling that something had crawled inside their heads. One of them said he saw a car crash. That hadn't happened yet. Another kept asking if his sister was okay, even though no one mentioned her. They looked at me like I had answers. I didn't. I radioed for help once I got them back to the clearing. This time it worked. A team came. They took the campers and me down the mountain. No one asked too many questions. I didn't give too many answers. But the story didn't end there. Over the next few weeks, we started getting reports. People claiming they saw red eyes in the sky over Black Hollow. Hikers feeling pulled toward the ridge. A kid swore he saw a man with wings watching from the treetops, just standing there in the dark. And then there were the dreams. I had them too. Fire, water, screams. My son's face, older now, crying behind a wall of glass I couldn't break. I don't know if it's warning me or messing with me or both. I tried to go back to the tower once, just once. But when I got there, it was different. The top floor had burned down. Nothing left but charred wood and ash. No light, no writings, no desk. Like it had never been there. But I remember it. I remember everything. And sometimes when I close my eyes, I still hear it. That low hum. Like a warning from deep underground. Like something isn't done yet. People ask why I stayed on the job. Why I didn't quit. Why I still wear the locket every day. I tell them it's because I have work to finish. Not ranger work. Something else. Because if the Mothman was showing me the future, then maybe I still have time to change it. Maybe I still have time to save him, my son. The wind had teeth that morning. I felt it bite through 3 layers of wool as I stepped off the ranger outpost porch. Skis strapped tight. Tala already whining at the edge of the trail. The snow didn't crunch. It squeaked, dry and brittle, like the sound of old bones breaking underfoot. Above us, the sky looked bruised. Not dark, not light. Just that strange Arctic twilight where time gets confused. Could be morning, could be night. Only the green glow of the northern light swaying like ghosts told me the day hadn't really started. I adjusted my scarf, checked my pack for the 3rd time. First aid, flare gun, 2 sticks of TNT, leftovers from avalanche drills, and the old army knife, the one I never left behind. Tala circled me once, then headed forward, tail low. We were heading toward Glacier Spine Ridge, 10 miles in, 5 up. There'd been a radio call last night. A supply hut didn't check in. Routine, most likely. But when your job is guarding 1,000,000 acres of wilderness, routine can kill you quick if you're lazy. The air smelled sharp, clean, but too still. No rustle, no birds, no howls. Just the sound of my skis sliding across the crust of snow, and Tala's paws making soft thumps behind me. Half an hour in, I spotted something strange. Tracks. Big ones. They weren't bear. Not wolf either. I've seen everything this side of the Arctic Circle, but these were wrong. Too long. Spaced too far apart. Almost human, but wide at the toe like a snowshoe. I crouched beside one and traced it with my glove. The snow around it was undisturbed. Fresh powder except for this single line of steps stretching ahead. And then, nothing. Just gone. The prints stopped like whoever made them had vanished into thin air. I turned in a circle, searching for broken branches or claw marks. Nothing. The snow beyond the last step was smooth, untouched, like even the wind didn't want to go near. Tala growled low. I straightened slowly and followed her gaze. At the far edge of the ridge, maybe 100 yards away, the ice was cracked. Not broken, cracked, like a web of fine lines spreading across the surface. From here, it looked like someone had stomped once with all their weight, then vanished. Wanted to call it in, but the radio crackled and died hours ago. Typical. We pushed forward. The sun never really rose, just kept bleeding a dull gray over the peaks, the kind that makes shadows look longer than they are. The sky kept dancing with green, swaying in silence, like it was watching. We skied past jagged ice columns, past frozen waterfalls that looked like frozen monsters mid-scream. My breath fogged up my goggles, and every time I wiped them clear, I swore I saw a figure behind us, just standing, not moving. But whenever I turned, there was only snow. I didn't like the way the air felt. It was too dry, too still. The cold wasn't normal either. It crept into your chest like it wanted to stop your heart. Tala was slowing down, ears pinned back. I could feel something pressing around us, like the mountains were holding their breath. Then came the sound, a crack, deep and far off, like someone snapping a giant tree in half. Tala stopped dead. I turned slowly. High on the ridge behind us, above a line of pines, I saw a white shape, tall, taller than a moose. Shoulders hunched, arms long, legs like stilts. It didn't move, just stood there, watching, and then it wasn't there. I blinked, wiped my goggles. Nothing. The wind howled again. But this time, it didn't sound like wind. It sounded like something, breathing, hard from too close. I didn't say a word, just tightened my grip on the poles and nodded for Tala to move. She didn't bark, just walked. Quiet. We didn't stop again for a long time. I wasn't always a ranger. Before Alaska, before the snow swallowed me whole, I was a soldier. Climbed mountains during the war. I knew how to move in cold places, how to find high ground and keep quiet. But I also knew what it felt like to leave someone behind. His name was Henry, my climbing partner, my friend. We were caught in a snowstorm, in the Alps. He slipped. I tried to hold on, but the rope burned through my gloves and he fell. Never found his body. Just his pocket knife weeks later, frozen under 6 feet of ice. That same knife lives in my coat now. I sharpen it every week. Not because I need it, but because it's all I have left of him. The guilt never melted. Not even a little. So, when got the offer to come work up here, where the snow keeps everyone quiet, I took it without thinking. That was 12 years ago. Tala came 2 winters after that. She was just a pup then, left behind by a musher who didn't want to runt. She followed me home through a storm and refused to leave. I named her after the word for wolf in an old native tongue. She's not fast, not big, but she's loyal. Smarter than most men I served with, too. We don't get many visitors in Denali this time of year. Maybe a lost hiker or a foolish tourist trying to photograph a moose. But usually it's just me, Tala, and the wind. And honestly, I like it that way. But today felt wrong. Even the trees seemed unsure, like they were leaning away from the path. I kept looking back, half expecting to see that tall shape again. I wanted to believe it was just a trick of the light, a shadow made by the aurora. But deep down, I knew better. I've seen things before. Things the cold doesn't want you to talk about. Like the man in 1953 who walked out barefoot into a blizzard, left his boots behind, left his jacket. Just walked into the white like he'd heard something calling. They found him 2 days later, frozen stiff, smiling. Or the pilot whose plane crashed last year. When we reached the wreck, the cockpit was torn open like a can, but there were no footprints in any direction. The snow was perfect, untouched. Sometimes the snow hides things, but sometimes it keeps them alive. Tala barked once, snapping me out of it. We were nearing the supply hut now, just a few hundred yards up a narrow path through the trees. The sky above was darker, and the lights had faded. The green was gone, replaced by a dull purple cloud cover. I could see the roof poking out from behind a snowdrift. Smoke should have been rising from the chimney. Wasn't. I gripped my poles tighter and moved faster. Tala didn't need a command. She was already running ahead, nose to the ground. Her tail was stiff. As we reached the edge of the clearing, I stopped cold. The hut's door was gone. Been gone, split in half and thrown into the snow. Shards of wood were buried like broken bones all around the front step. The window shutters were swinging loose, one cracked down the middle. But what really froze me wasn't the broken door. It was the snow inside the hut. It was melted. There, in the center of the floor, was a perfect circle of wet wood and slush. The rest of the room was still frozen solid, untouched. But in that one spot, the frost was gone. Like something had stood there, breathing heat into the bones of the building. Tala whimpered. She backed away. I stepped forward slowly, heart pounding. My boots crunched the edge of the melted ring, and instantly my toes stung like they'd hit boiling water. Not cold. The air smelled strange, like sulfur and pine needles, like the inside of a cave. I looked around. No blood, no gear, no footprints, no reason at all for what I was seeing, except the feeling in my gut told me exactly what this was. Something had been here, and it wasn't done yet. I didn't stay in that hut for long. Every part of me wanted to turn around and leave. But I had a job to do. There were supposed to be 2 supply runners here last night. Their snowmobiles were gone. No radio, no logs in the book, no sign they'd even arrived. I stepped out into the cold again, shaking off the feeling crawling up my back. Tala didn't come inside. She just stood a few feet away, watching the trees. Her ears were flat and her tail was tucked. She'd never done that before, not even when we came face to face with a grizzly last year. I scanned the tree line. Still nothing. No movement. No sound. Just that same heavy silence pressing on everything. It was the kind of quiet that feels loud. The kind that makes your heartbeat sound like footsteps. We followed a narrow trail behind the hut, hoping maybe the men had camped further. Up. The sky was still that muddy purple, the sun hiding behind it like it didn't want to see what was down here. Half a mile up, we found something else. Clothes. Ripped, torn, shredded, nailed to a tree, a jacket sleeve, a bootlace, part of a flannel, shirt all nailed neatly side by side, into the bark with thick metal pegs. No blood, no footprints, no bodies. Just clothes like someone had hung them up on display. Like a warning. Tala whimpered again and backed away, shaking her head. I've known dogs long enough to know when they're scared. This was worse than fear. It was like she knew something, like she'd smelled it already. I looked down and noticed something else. The snow around the tree was melted too, just like inside the hut. A perfect circle. Steam rose off it slow and thin. The cold around it was stronger though. I stepped back without touching it. My chest felt tight. My breathing got shallow. Then I saw it. High up the hill on a flat ridge between 2 cliffs. Someone was standing. A human shape. Still as a statue. Too far to see clearly, but close enough to know it wasn't a tree or shadow. No jacket, no gear, just tall. Too tall, arms hanging low, head tilted, watching. I raised my hand and waved. No response. I shouted, "Hello?" Nothing. It didn't move. Not a step, not a twitch. Like it had been carved out of snow. I took out my binoculars. Before I could lift them to my eyes, the figure turned. Not walked. Just turned. Like it had been facing left. And now it was facing straight at me. Still no movement. Just that awful feeling of being seen. Tala growled. She backed into me, pressing against my leg. I felt her shaking, and just like that, the figure was gone. I didn't see it move. Didn't blink. 1 second it was there, the next it wasn't. I scanned the ridge. Empty. I checked again. Nothing. That's when I noticed the birds. 3 of them. Ravens, I think. Flying overhead, circling above us, they dropped from the sky. No warning, no sound. Just dropped. Hit the snow like stones. I rushed over, half slipping on the slope, and knelt beside the nearest one. No blood, no broken wings. Eyes wide open, dead, frozen stiff. Tala wouldn't come near them. I stood up and looked around again, heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my teeth. Something wasn't right. Something was wrong in a way I couldn't explain. The air itself felt sharp, like it could cut skin if you breathed too hard. I pulled out the flare gun from my belt, checked the chamber. 1 shot, just in case. The trees around us started to sway. No wind, but they moved. Just a little. Just enough to make me think they weren't trees anymore. I shook my head. "No," I whispered. "Don't lose it now." I turned to Tala. She was staring up at the ridge, her fur stood straight up, her teeth bared. Then I heard it, a sound I will never forget. Not a roar, not a growl. It was a scream, high, piercing, blinding, like metal scraping. Glass inside your skull. My knees buckled, my goggles cracked. Tala yelped and fell to the snow, covering her ears with her paws. The sound lasted only seconds, but it felt like an hour. Then, gone. Silence again. My hands were shaking. My breath fogged in short bursts. I couldn't see out of one eye. My goggles were broken, ice crystals had formed on my lashes, and behind me, the snow was melting. I couldn't think straight after the scream. It had sliced through the air like a knife. Not just loud, it hurt. Like it shook something deep in my brain. My ears still rang, my vision was blurry. My chest felt like it was full of smoke. Tala wasn't moving. She lay on her side, paws twitching. Her eyes were wide, but she wasn't looking at anything. Just staring into space like her soul had stepped away for a bit. I knelt beside her and gently touched her fur. It was wet with frost, not snow. Frost it had formed while she lay there. Her breath came slow. I wrapped my scarf around her, hoping my body heat would help. But I knew this was more than cold. This wasn't normal. To get her back, I turned to retrace our path, but the trail was gone, wiped clean, no ski marks, no paw prints, just flat, untouched snow behind us, as if we had never come. That's when I felt it again. The pressure, like the air itself got heavier, like I was underwater. My legs felt slow, my heart pounded, my breath came fast. I looked up. There. It was the thing. It didn't walk. It glided across the snow. Silent. White fur blending with the land around it. No tracks behind it. No crunching sounds. Just motion, smooth and wrong, like gravity didn't work the same way near it. It was huge. Shoulders like a bear. Arms too long. Fingers like icicles. Its face. No, I couldn't see a face. Just white. Like light bouncing off snow on a sunny day. Blinding. I pulled off my broken goggles and blinked hard. My eyes burned. Not from cold, from looking at it. The thing let out a breath. I heard it. No, I felt it. A wave of freezing air hit me like a punch. My skin stung. Ice bloomed across my eyebrows and lashes. My lips cracked open. My fingers started to go numb, even through my gloves. Tala whimpered. I reached into my coat and grabbed Henry's knife. My hand shook as I held it. What could it do against that? But I needed something, anything. The Yeti, because that's what it had to be, kept coming. Not fast, just steady, confident. Like it knew we couldn't. Run. And maybe it was right. I fired the flare. It shot into the sky and burst in red fire above us. For a moment, the snow lit up like blood. Shadows danced. The creature froze. It didn't scream this time. It hissed. Low and slow, like air escaping from deep underground. Then, it turned its head slightly, like it was listening to something only could hear. Birds dropped again. 2 this time. They fell from the sky and hit the ground in silence. No reason. Just dead. The Yeti raised its arm. From its hand, a thin mist poured out. It floated in the air, then rolled toward us across the snow. Where it touched, the ground cracked with frost. Trees nearby groaned. One snapped in half. Ice spread along the bark like veins. I grabbed Tala and pulled her up over my shoulder. She was heavy, dead weight. I could barely feel my legs, but I forced them to move. We stumbled into a rocky pass. I remembered this part. A narrow glacial shelf just ahead. One wrong step, and you'd fall into a canyon. The ice cracked loud when the wind picked up here. The Yeti followed, still not fast, still no sound. Just its breath, like knives in the air. I reached the edge of the shelf and stopped. The ice was thin. I knew it. I'd tested it last week during a patrol. Any pressure would break it, and I had pressure in my pack. 2 sticks of leftover TNT. I had brought them for avalanche drills, to shake loose unstable snow. Now they were the only thing that might save us. I laid Tala down and unzipped my pack with numb fingers, pulled out the sticks, set the timer. 5 seconds. It would be enough. The Yeti was only 10 feet away now. Its shape shimmered. The light bent around it like heat waves. It leaned forward, and its breath spilled across the shelf. The frost curled. Toward me, hungry. I tossed the TNT hard toward its feet and ran. I grabbed Tala and jumped behind a rock just as the world cracked. The explosion didn't sound like thunder. It sounded like the mountains screaming. The shelf collapsed. Ice and snow tumbled into the canyon, taking the thing with it. The air shook. Snow poured down from the trees. Everything went white. And then, silence. When the noise stopped, I didn't move. I couldn't. Snow covered everything. My coat, my arms, my face. I was half buried behind the rocks. My ears rang and my hands were shaking so bad I couldn't even tell if I still held Tala. I opened my eyes. Everything was white, still, silent. I sat up slowly. Every bone in my body hurt. My ribs felt like they'd cracked. My knees were sore. My right hand was burned from the TNT timer. The air still smelled like smoke and ice. But the creature was gone. The edge of the glacial shelf was shattered. A wide crack split the ground where the Yeti had stood. Chunks of ice and rock had fallen into the canyon below. I crawled to the edge and looked down. There was no sign of it, just a long fall into darkness. I didn't celebrate. Didn't cheer. I didn't even breathe right away, because something in me still felt watched. Like whatever I had seen wasn't finished yet. Like part of it was still out there, just waiting. I turned to Tala. She wasn't breathing. Her fur was stiff, crusted with frost. Her eyes were closed, her body still. "No," I whispered, falling beside her. "No, no, no, please." I pressed my hands to her side, felt for a heartbeat. Nothing. I shouted her name, rubbed her neck, pulled her ears gently. I even tried mouth to snout breaths like I had read once in a ranger manual. Still nothing. I sat in the snow for a long time. I don't know how long. The sun never came out. The clouds didn't break. The wind didn't return. It was just me. And her. I carried her all the way back. The trail didn't reappear. I had to guess the direction by memory. My radio was dead. My compass was frozen. But I knew the shape of the trees, the curve of the rocks, the places where the snow dipped just a little more on the side. It took me hours. I couldn't feel my legs by the time I reached the main cabin. I collapsed just outside the door. Tala, still in my arms. The other rangers found us that way. They helped me inside, gave me warm blankets, hot broth, asked questions. I didn't answer most of them. What could I say? That I'd seen something no man should ever see. That a beast made of snow and silence had followed me through the forest and screamed fire into my brain? That Tala died because I brought her too close? They wouldn't believe me. But one man did. An old native guide who worked with the team years ago. He came to visit when he heard I was back, brought a pouch of herbs, sat quietly by the fire before he spoke. He said the thing I saw had a name long before people called it a Yeti. Said the mountains whisper warnings sometimes, but most don't listen. Said I was lucky to survive. When he left, he placed a small stone on the table. It was carved with a symbol I didn't recognize. To keep it from following you in dreams, he said. It didn't work. Weeks passed. Spring came. I didn't go back. To Glacier Spine Ridge. I couldn't. I cleaned Tala's collar and hung it by the window. Every day when I woke up, I looked at it and felt the hole she left behind. Some nights, I heard her pause in the hallway. But when I got up to check, nothing. One morning, a letter came from a search team. They'd found something strange near the bottom of that canyon. Not a body, not bones. Just a knife, half buried in a block of ice, old, rusted, but still sharp. It was Henry's. The same pocket knife I had carried all these years. The one I always kept in my coat. But mine was still here, in my drawer. They had found another one, same initials, same scratches on the handle. They asked if it was mine. I said no. But deep down I knew it was. Somehow it had returned to where it first belonged, to where he fell, to where the cold never forgets. I still work here, still walk the trails, but I don't go out at night anymore. I don't follow strange tracks, and I don't trust the silence because sometimes the wind stops for a reason, and when it does, I remember the thing that walks on ice. They say Devil's Backbone got its name from the way the hills twist and rise like a spine poking out of the earth. But after what I saw, I think it's because something evil walks along that ridge. Something with horns, hooves, and a voice. That gets inside your head. It started on a dry, crackling evening in the summer of 1969. The sky was red. Not the kind of soft, warm red you get at sunset, but a deep, bloody kind. The air was thick with smoke. Wildfires were burning 50 miles out, and though the wind hadn't brought the flames to Devil's Backbone yet, it brought the heat. It pressed against my skin like a warning. I was on patrol, driving slow along the edge of the cliffs in my old green pickup. The tires crunched over dry brush, and even my radio stayed silent. No chatter from the other rangers, just the hum of the truck and the creak of the old suspension. Miguel, my cousin, sat in the passenger seat, his window down, a beer sweating in his hand. "You really think something's out here?" he asked, half smiling. "I don't think I know." I didn't look at him when I said it. My eyes were on the road and the shadows slipping between the trees. Miguel had come up from Mexico to visit, said he needed air, space, something different. I let him tag along on my weekend patrol, even though he laughed at the stories. Goatman, skinwalkers, shadow figures. He called it hillbilly horror, but even he fell quiet when the coyotes started howling. We heard one close by, then another, further down the ridge. It echoed through the canyons. Miguel leaned out, whistled like it was a joke, and then we both heard it. The howl twisted. It changed. It dropped into something deeper, richer, and ended in a sound that wasn't a coyote at all. It was laughter, low, mocking, almost human. I stopped the truck. The world around us froze. No birds, no bugs. Even the wind, which had been hot and steady all day, suddenly stopped like someone had sucked the air out of the sky. Miguel blinked. "What the hell was that?" I didn't answer. I was already climbing out of the truck. The dust kicked up around. My boots. I walked to the edge of the cliffs and looked down into the valley. It was quiet. Too quiet. The trees looked like they were holding their breath. My gut tightened. Behind me, Miguel slammed his door. "You look like you've seen a ghost." Not yet. The sun was slipping lower now. Just a sliver hung above the rocks. Everything took on this weird glow, like the world was rusting in. Real time. I walked to the edge of a lookout point where we had planned to camp. It was clear, flat, and surrounded by brittle mesquite trees. I'd camped there before, never had a problem. But that night, the whole place felt off. Still, I forced a smile. "We'll set up here. Help me with the tent." Miguel grumbled, but he helped. We got the tent up before dark. Started a small fire with some old logs and kindling I kept in the back of the truck. As flames danced, Miguel poured us both a drink from the bottle he packed. I took a sip but didn't finish it. Something about the night made me want to stay sharp. The stars came out, but the moon didn't. Clouds had rolled in, slow and thin like smoke. I checked the wind again. Still nothing. Dead still. Even the fire barely flickered, and then we heard it again. A coyote, but not really. It started high, then turned into a growl. A deep, throaty sound that scratched against the back of my brain. Miguel froze mid-sip. "Tell me that was just a coyote." "I don't lie." He forced a laugh, but it didn't sound right. We sat there in silence for a while, watching the fire. Then, in the glow of the flames, I noticed something. My compass. It sat on the ground by my boots where I had dropped it earlier. The needle spun. Not just wobbled. Spun. Fast. Like it was trying to escape the glass. I didn't say anything. I just picked it up and slipped it in my pocket. Miguel looked at me. "What's wrong?" "Nothing," I lied. But I knew something had changed. And whatever it was close. Too close. I wasn't always a ranger. Before this, I wore a badge in a different way. Blue uniform, city streets, a patrol car instead of a truck. I was a cop in San Antonio, 6 years on the force. Tough beats, tougher nights. Then the fire happened. We were chasing a suspect into an abandoned building. My partner, Elena, rushed in first. I followed. We got split. The roof caved in. I made it out. She didn't. The flames licked her name off the report, just ash left behind. That day I stopped wearing my badge on my chest. Now I carry it in my backpack, blackened and bent, as a reminder of what I owe, and who I couldn't save. That's part of why I took this job out in the wild. Less noise, less death. I thought maybe the trees would help me forget the screams. They didn't. Miguel had no idea about all that. He was my cousin, more like a little brother. Grew up in a small village in Veracruz. Used to send me postcards with silly drawings when we were kids. He was loud, always joking, always teasing. But loyal. A good man. When he showed up 2 weeks ago dragging a duffel bag and asking if he could breathe American air, I said yes. He needed a break from the world. I understood that. That's why I brought him out here with me. Show him the stars. Let him taste real silence. Maybe shake the ghosts off both our shoulders. Back at the campsite, the fire was low, crackling. Miguel was poking it with a stick, humming softly. It was some old Spanish lullaby. I remembered our grandmother used to sing it when we were sick. Tell me again about this goatman, he said, grinning. Is he like a chupacabra, but with better legs? I smirked. Worse. At least the chupacabra just wants goats. Goatman wants your mind, Miguel laughed. You're messing with me. I didn't laugh. There's stories, I said. Quiet. Started back in the 30s. Ranchers finding their cattle skinned, but no blood. Teenagers going missing. The only thing left behind was a smell, like copper and rot. Some say they saw a figure with horns and hooves standing on 2 legs. And they just let it hang around? Miguel scoffed. No one ever caught it, and they say if you try to look directly at him, he disappears. Miguel rolled his eyes. That's convenient. I looked at him. The part that gets me is the whispers. He stopped poking the fire. What whispers? They say he tells you things no one else could know. Secrets, regrets, the stuff you never say out loud. Miguel didn't smile this time. We sat in silence after that. The night pressed, down. The stars blinked above us, cold and quiet. Even the fire didn't feel warm anymore. After a while, Miguel stood up, stretched. I'm turning in. Too much ghost talk for one night. I nodded. Wake me if you hear anything. You? Mean like laughter in the trees. Exactly. He unzipped the tent, crawled in, and zipped it shut behind him. I stayed up a while longer. The fire gave off little pops like bones cracking under weight. The trees creaked in the windless dark. I tried not to think of Elena, of the fire, of the smell of burning skin and the sound of someone calling my name through smoke. But I couldn't help it. That's when I noticed it again. That smell, not smoke, not sweat, but copper, and something sharp like rotting fruit. It was faint like the memory of a smell, but it was there. I turned my head slowly, scanning the shadows beyond the trees. Nothing moved. Still, I felt it. A presence, like something was watching but hiding just out of sight. I poured dirt over the fire, stomped it out. Then I crawled into the tent beside Miguel and zipped it shut tight. He was already snoring. I laid down, heart thumping, staring at the nylon roof above me, trying to pretend the world outside wasn't shifting, trying to pretend I wasn't afraid. I woke up just before dawn. Something felt off. Not loud, not violent, just wrong. Like the air had changed, like the world was holding its breath. Miguel wasn't in the tent. His sleeping bag was open. His boots were gone. I sat up fast, unzipped the flap and stepped outside. The air was cold, which didn't make sense. It had been boiling the night before. Now the dirt was wet with dew, and the trees looked darker than usual, like they were painted with ash. I called out, "Miguel?" No answer. Just a soft rustle from beyond the trees. I slipped my boots on, grabbed my flashlight, and followed the noise. My breath fogged the air. That's when I saw them. Hoof prints, big ones, deep. Far deeper than they should have been. Like something heavy had been walking in circles. Around our tent. Around us. I crouched down, touched the edge of one print. It was warm, still fresh. My fingers tingled, my skin crawled. I followed the prints around the campsite, heart racing. They led toward a small slope behind the ridge. That's where I found Miguel, standing still, staring up at the rocks. He didn't turn when I called his name. He just said, "Do you see it?" I stepped up beside him and looked where he was pointing. At first, I didn't see anything. Then, high on the rocks above us, just before the ridge turned to sky, I saw it. A figure, tall. Too tall. Broad shoulders. But the shape was all wrong. Horns rose from the head, long and curved. One hand was resting against the rock, but the other just hung low. Fingers. Too many fingers. I tried to focus my eyes on it, but the second I stared, really stared, it vanished. Gone. No dust, no sound. Just gone. I blinked. Miguel whispered, "He knows about you." I turned to him. "What?" He shook his head slowly. "He said your badge melted in your hands, that you were holding it. That you couldn't hear her scream because you were already outside the building." My stomach dropped. Those were words I had never spoken to anyone, not even Miguel. "How do you know that?" I asked, voice low. He didn't answer, just stared, at the ridge. His eyes were glassy. Sweating even though it was cold, I grabbed his arm. "Miguel, how do you know that?" He blinked and pulled away from me. Then he turned and walked back to camp without a word. By late morning, the heat came back strong. The sky was bright, too bright, like the sun was trying to burn everything white. Miguel stayed quiet all day. He sat near the fire pit, carving something into the dirt with a stick. Circles, symbols, over and over. I tried to ask him what was wrong. He wouldn't answer. At one point, I stepped away to check the ridge. When I came back, he was pacing, muttering to himself. "Don't trust her," he kept saying. "She didn't save her, she let her burn." That's when I grabbed him. "Hey," I said. "You're scaring me, snap out of it." He stared at me like I was someone else, like he didn't recognize me. Then his whole body went still. "Your eyes," he said. "They're different." He took a step back, then another. Then he turned and ran, straight into the trees. I yelled after him, chased him down the slope, ducking under branches and leaping over rocks. But he was faster. He dropped his jacket as he ran. Then his shirt. Then everything. By the time I reached the creek, I found nothing but his belt and his boots, dropped like he'd stepped out of his own skin. I called out again, and again, but there was no answer. Just the sound of wind in the trees, and laughter. Not loud, not nearby, but echoing from all around. I stood there, panting, heart thudding like a drum. My hands shook. Then I heard it. A whisper. It wasn't in my ears. It was in my head. "You didn't save her. You can't save him." I ran back to camp, grabbing my bag, my knife, my old badge from the side pocket. I held it tight in my hand, even though it burned against my skin. I sat by the cold fire pit, waiting, watching the tree line. That's when I realized something. There were no birds, no bugs, no sounds, just silence. Thick and waiting. It was almost sunset again when I found him. I had followed the sound of water down to a dry creek bed. The heat had returned, dry and biting. My skin felt tight. My throat was raw. Miguel was there, but he wasn't standing. He was crouched, his back to me, muttering something, over and over. His fingernails were caked with dirt, his body covered in scratches. He was shaking. I walked up slow. His head twitched toward me, but he didn't fully turn. I said his name, gentle, careful. He froze, then said in a whisper, "You're not real." "It's me, Miguel." He laughed, short, hollow. "No." "The goat man. Took your skin, he wears it, talks like you, but he's not you. My mouth went dry. I'm not. Miguel, look at me. He didn't. Instead, he stood up fast, breathing hard. He told me everything, he said. He said you watched her die. Said you ran. Said you didn't even try to go back. I stepped forward. Miguel, stop. But he screamed, loud and sharp, and lunged at me. I barely had time to duck. His fist swung wild, one catching my cheek. I hit the ground hard, rolled and scrambled to my feet. Blood ran from my nose. He rushed again. I didn't want to hurt him, but I had no choice. I grabbed a branch off the ground, swung it hard into his legs. He fell, groaning. I jumped on top of him, pinning his arms. I'm sorry, I yelled. Whatever he told you, it's not real. He sobbed beneath me, and then he went still, not unconscious, not calm. Still, eyes wide, mouth open, breath frozen, and he whispered, "He's here." My head turned, slowly, almost against my will. The goatman stood on the ridge above us, body outlined in the sinking sun. His horns looked longer now. His arms reached past his knees. He stood perfectly still, but the trees behind him moved like they were breathing. I stared, and just like before, he vanished. But this time, something stayed, a feeling, like my skin had turned inside out. Miguel whimpered beneath me. He's in my head. We're leaving, I said, pulling him up. Now. But he shook. His head, eyes wide. It's too late, he's in my blood. Then he ran, again. I chased him. Through rocks, brush, down the edge of a ravine. My legs screamed. My lungs burned, but I couldn't stop. I couldn't lose him again. I followed the sound of his screams. They were wild, animal-like, filled with pain. Then, suddenly, silence. No screams, no wind, just quiet, and that smell. Copper. And something worse, like burned hair and old meat. I came around the bend and stopped cold. Miguel's body was caught in a thorn bush. He was hanging sideways, legs tangled, arms limp, his eyes gone. Two dark holes stared back at me. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. All I could do was fall to my knees, heart pounding like a drum in my throat. I crawled to him, shaking, hands numb. His skin was pale, his chest still, his mouth slightly open like he died mid-sentence. Something in me broke. I don't remember crying, but I must have, because my face was wet. I reached into my bag, pulled out the old badge, held it tight. I'm sorry, I whispered. And then I stood, and I did the only thing I could think to do. I walked back to the camp, took the last can of fuel from the truck, poured it over the fire pit, over the tent, and into the dirt where I'd seen the hoof prints. Then I lit a match. The fire exploded up with a loud hiss. Flames reached toward the sky like they were hungry. I stood there until it was ash, and the sun was gone. When the rangers found me the next day, I was sitting in the same spot, covered in soot, dried blood on my cheek, eyes wide, silent. I told them Miguel got lost, that I tried to find him, that the fire was an accident. They never found his body, just his boots and my badge. I didn't go back to Devil's Backbone after that, but others did, and every few years someone reports a figure with horns watching from the cliffs. No photos, no prints, only stories, and the silence that comes just before the scream. I don't know how long I sat there just watching the ashes cool. The sun had dipped behind the hills, and night settled in, but this night wasn't like before. It didn't feel empty. It felt full, heavy, like the dark itself was watching me. I was numb. Burning the camp hadn't changed anything. Miguel was still gone, and whatever the goat man had done to him, it had worked. He broke his mind before he tore his body apart. I couldn't stop replaying it. His eyes, the way he spoke, the way he ran, the whispers, and the worst part, I believed them, because they weren't lies. Not all of them. I had run from the fire that day. I had been outside when the roof collapsed. And yes, I did freeze when Elena screamed. I told everyone I couldn't reach her, but the truth was I was scared. So when the goatman whispered it to Miguel, he was only holding up a mirror. That's what he does. He doesn't kill you with claws or teeth. He breaks you with the parts of the truth you've buried so deep you forget they're there. Sometime in the middle of the night, I heard footsteps. Crunching. Slow. Heavy. Coming from behind the truck. I didn't turn. I didn't breathe. My knife was on the ground beside me, still covered in dirt and dried blood. I reached for it just in case. The steps stopped. Right behind me, I felt something then. A strange warmth on my back, not comforting. More like standing too close to a fire. Like my skin was blistering, but there were no flames. Then I heard it, not a voice, not a growl, just a breath. Long, slow, and wet. It filled my ears, my chest, my head. You'll never leave. The words weren't spoken out loud, but I heard them, like a thought that didn't come from me. I closed my eyes and whispered, "You can't have me." Silence. Then the breath stopped. The heat vanished. And when I turned around, nothing. Just the dark, the truck, the cold. They found me in the morning. A couple of hikers saw the smoke and called it in. I told the investigation team I got disoriented. That Miguel wandered off and I couldn't find him. That I burned the camp to try to signal for help. They believed me, mostly. I was placed on medical leave. I stayed with my aunt in Austin for a while, barely speaking. Just lying on the couch, staring at the ceiling, waiting for the whispers to come back. But they didn't. Not at first. 3 months later, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside was a photograph. It showed the Devil's Backbone Ridge at sunset. At the edge of the photo, barely visible in the orange light, was a shape. A tall figure, with horns. I threw the photo in the trash and tried to forget. But it didn't work. Because a week later I saw him again. Not in the woods, not in a dream, in a mirror behind me. Gone when I turned. Now it's been years. I moved to a smaller town. Took a job as a night security guard. I don't go near the woods anymore. I don't talk about Miguel, or Elena, or the things I saw. But I keep the badge, burnt and bent, wrapped in cloth in the bottom of my drawer. Sometimes at night I swear. Moves, like it's trying to twist into something else, like it remembers. People still hike Devil's Backbone. Some say it's peaceful, quiet. Great views, but others come back shaken. They say they felt watched. One woman claimed she smelled copper in the air, then saw a man on the ridge, tall, with horns. When she took out her camera, nothing appeared. On film, just trees and sky. Someone else said they heard laughter in the wind. Low mocking, and their compass, it spun in circles for 3 days straight. I've learned to live with the silence. The nights are quiet now, mostly. But sometimes, just before I drift off, I feel that heat on my back. And I remember what he told me. You'll never leave. And deep down, I know he's right. It had been raining for 6 straight days. Not the soft kind of rain that taps the windows and smells like wet grass. This was hard, angry rain. The kind that makes your jacket useless and turns forest paths into rivers. Every tree and mount. Hood National Forest looked soaked to the bones. Even the air felt heavy, like it didn't want me there. My boots squelched through the mud as I hiked up the back trail, headed toward one of our old ranger cabins. We'd gotten a radio call, short. Broken, maybe from hikers stuck up there. Then silence. Could have been a false alarm, could have been a broken antenna, but orders were orders. I volunteered to check it out. To be honest, I wanted the quiet. I needed it. I've worked as a forest ranger for a few years, mostly here in Oregon. I love the trees, the peace, the way the wind sounds when it runs through the pines. But I wasn't out here just because of the job. I was trying to outrun something. Her name was Laurel. We were supposed to get married last fall. She died before the first snow. Fell while climbing the south face of Mount Jefferson. People say she slipped. I say I should have been there. Wear part of her old climbing rope on my wrist. I turned it into a bracelet, a reminder. Some people call that holding on. I call it not letting go. That morning I left the ranger station at first light. Sky was gray. Trees looked like they'd been crying all night. The rain hadn't stopped, not even a little. It felt like the whole forest was sinking. Halfway up the trail, I saw a deer. It stood on the path ahead of me, completely still, staring into the mist like it had forgotten how to move. Its fur was soaked, hanging in strands. Then, out of nowhere, it bolted. Ran so fast it was just a blur. But instead of running into the trees, it crashed headfirst into a thick pine trunk. The sound it made when its neck snapped was sharp and final. It dropped like a puppet with its strings cut. I just stood there. I've seen dead animals before. That's part of the job. But something about this, it felt wrong. The deer didn't run from me, it ran from something else. Something I couldn't see. I walked up to it slowly. No wounds, no blood. Just its twisted neck and wide, scared eyes. Still open, still staring into nothing. I looked around, but the mist was thick. I couldn't see more than a few feet in any direction. The air was dead quiet now, like the forest was holding its breath. I didn't like that. By the time I reached the cabin, the rain was coming down even harder. It sat at the edge of a clearing, roof sagging a little under the weight of water. One of the shutters banged against the wall, thudding every few seconds. I called out, "Forest Ranger, anyone inside?" Nothing. I tried the radio again. Static. Stepped onto the porch. Wood creaked under my boots. The cabin door wasn't locked. It creaked open with a long groan, like it hadn't been used in a while. Inside, it smelled like wet dust and old wood. There were 2 bunks, a small stove, a water barrel, and a desk with a lamp that didn't work. One of the windows was fogged up from the inside. I wiped it with my sleeve, still nothing outside. Just fog, no bags, no boots, no wet socks hanging to dry. No sign anyone had been here recently. But then I noticed the firewood, stacked neat beside. The stove, freshly chopped. Someone had been here. I looked around again. The cabin was quiet. Too quiet. Even my own breathing felt loud. I decided to stay the night. Just in case someone came back, I changed into dry clothes, lit a candle, and sat on the lower bunk. The flame flickered fast, like it didn't want to stay still. I watched it dance while the rain hit the roof like fingers drumming. I didn't want to admit it, but something about this place made my skin feel too tight, like I wasn't alone. Still, I told myself I was being dramatic. Just a tired mind and too many memories. That's all. Before sleeping, I tied my bracelet tighter around my wrist. The rope was rough, but familiar. Solid. Real. I lay down on the bunk and closed my eyes. Somewhere outside, I thought I heard footsteps in the mud. But when I sat up and listened, there was only rain. I woke up before sunrise. Not because of the cold or the hard bunk. I'd gotten used to those. It was something else. A pressure in the air, like the forest had moved closer while I slept. The rain was softer now, but steady. I sat up, rubbed my eyes and listened. Nothing. No birds, no wind. Just the low hum of rain hitting the roof. Then I saw the window. It was fogged up again, but this time there were words. 4 letters drawn with a finger in the mist. Rooney stared at it for a long time, heart thudding in my chest. I didn't do that. I know I didn't do that. I stood and walked over to it slowly, like the glass might break if I moved too fast. I wiped it clean with my sleeve again, checking outside. Just fog. Thick, white, endless. I looked behind me, at the door. Still closed. No footprints on the cabin floor. No wet spots. Nothing touched. But the message was there. And it hadn't been there the night before. My stomach turned. I stepped outside with my flashlight and looked around. Fog clung to the trees like spider webs. Visibility was maybe 10 feet. Beyond that, just shapes and shadows. I didn't want to go far, just enough to clear my head. So I walked the edge of the clearing, scanning for anything that could explain the writing. A prank? Another ranger? Then, I saw them, footprints. Just a few in the soft mud near the woodpile, bare feet. Small, but not a child's. The toes were long, almost too long, and the way the feet pressed into the earth didn't look right, like they were too heavy for how small they were. I followed the trail to the side of the cabin, and it stopped. Just ended at the wall like whoever it was had walked into the building. But they hadn't. I would have heard them, right? I felt something shift in the back of my mind, like a crack was starting to form. I turned around quickly, but no one was there. Back inside, I locked the cabin door and checked every corner. Still no signs of life or anything else. But that feeling was back. That tight feeling, like something was watching. I needed to keep moving. Sitting still was starting to mess with my head. So I opened the supply box near the stove. Mostly canned food, matches, and an old poncho. Ripped down the middle, soaked in dried mud, but no blood. Still, something about it felt wrong, like it had been grabbed, torn hard and fast. I held it up and saw something stuck in the fabric. Teeth, 2 human teeth wedged deep in the fibers like someone had bit down in panic. One of them was cracked with a tiny piece missing. I dropped the poncho and stepped back. There was no blood, no bite marks on the poncho. Just those 2 teeth, like whoever wore it vanished with a scream. I tried to radio in again. Still nothing. The silence in the cabin wasn't normal anymore. It had weight to it, like a blanket pressed over your face. The candle I lit the night before sat cold. I hadn't even realized it had gone out. I needed air. I opened the door and stepped onto the porch. That's when I saw it again. Footprints this time, leading away from the cabin. But they weren't the same ones from earlier. These were deeper, wider, and fresher. I crouched down and touched the mud, still warm. That didn't make sense. It was raining. Everything was cold. But the spot where the footprints sank, warm like breath on skin. I followed them for a few steps and then stopped. They led into the fog, and I couldn't see where they ended. I turned back. I wasn't stupid. I knew the forest, and I knew when it was time to stay put. But before I walked inside, I looked at the cabin window again. The fog was already creeping back across the glass, slowly, softly, and then a finger swiped across it from the inside. I didn't scream. I froze. It was fast. One swipe, gone in a second, but I saw it. A pale, thin finger. No nail, no flesh. Just bone and skin, like something that used to be human, but wasn't anymore. I stepped inside and locked the door again, my breath coming fast. I sat on the bunk, gripping the rope around my wrist. That's when I noticed the walls. Tiny scratches, hundreds of them, like fingernails dragging over wood. I hadn't seen them before, maybe I didn't want to. But now I saw everything. This cabin wasn't empty. It never was. That night I didn't sleep much. I lay on the bunk, fully dressed. Flashlight in my hand. The door was locked, the windows shut. But it didn't matter, I still felt it. That pressure. Like the cabin was breathing with me. The candle wouldn't stay lit. Every time I struck a match, it flared up for a second, then died. Like the air didn't want fire. The only sound was the rain, still falling, still steady. At some point, I must have dozed off, maybe only for a minute, but I had a dream. In the dream, I was back on Mount Jefferson. Snow everywhere. Laurel was ahead of me, climbing. She looked like she did the last day I saw her. Wind in her hair, cheeks red from the cold. She turned around, smiled at me, and said, "It's okay now. You can come." Her voice sounded soft, warm, but wrong. Not her wrong. It echoed weird, like it was coming from inside a tunnel. Like it had been copied. She reached out her hands, and that's when I saw her eyes. They weren't there. Just 2 black holes, empty, still smiling. Then I woke up gasping. It was still night, still raining. But something was different. The door was wide open, not cracked, not pushed. Wide open like someone had just walked in, or out. My flashlight beam cut across the floor. No footprints. No sign of anyone. But the smell, it was strong. Wet wood, old meat, and something else, like burnt hair. I stepped outside slowly. The fog had pulled back a little. I could see more of the clearing now. Trees stood like shadows, tall and still. Raindrops hung in the air like they didn't want to fall. And then I heard it, a voice. Laurel. Not a scream, not a whisper. Just my name, from her voice. She said it again. It's okay now, you can come. Same as the dream, same wrong. Echo. Same warm tone. I spun in a circle, flashlight flashing through the trees. Nobody's here, I whispered. But I didn't believe it. Then I saw something move at the edge of the clearing. Just a flicker, a pale shape, low to the ground. Crawling. Gone, before I could focus. I backed up into the cabin, closed the door, and this time, I nailed it shut. Hammered boards across it using tools I found under the bunk. My hands were shaking the whole time. I kept hearing sounds, small taps, like fingers drumming on the walls. I told myself it was rain, just rain. But rain doesn't move sideways. Sat down at the desk, opened the old Ranger logbook and tried to read to calm my nerves. Just routine stuff from 1973. Fire watch schedules, animal sightings, trail reports. Then I found something strange. One entry was different. No date, no signature, just a note in shaky handwriting. Don't look at it, don't listen to it. If it talks in a voice you love, run. I dropped the book. That was when the headache started. Sharp, like a needle behind my eyes. My ears began to ring. I pressed my palms against my temples, trying not to scream. Then I heard scratching. Not from the door, from above. The roof. I aimed the flashlight up and saw dust falling from the beams. Whatever it was crawling on the ceiling. Quiet, slow, like it was learning how to move. Then it stopped. The cabin went still again. Not even rain. Then I heard her voice one last time. This time it was right beside my ear. It's okay now, Curtis. I turned, swinging the flashlight hard. Nothing. But the scratches on the wall had gotten deeper. Some were fresh, still flaking. That night, I didn't sleep again. I sat on the bunk, back to the wall, flashlight in one hand, rope in the other. Just breathing, just listening, waiting. Morning came, but the light never changed. The sky stayed gray. The trees stood still. The fog sat heavy on the ground like it had no place else to go. The rain was softer now, more like a whisper than a storm. I hadn't slept. Just sat there with my back against the wall, holding the flashlight and staring at I kept telling myself it was all in my head. The voice, the footprints, the scratches. I was just tired, grieving, seeing things. But deep down, I knew better. I could feel it. It hadn't left. I stepped outside the cabin slowly, flashlight off, listening. Everything was wet and quiet, like the forest was holding its breath again. But something was different now. The trees didn't look right. The trail was gone, swallowed by mud and mist. And then I saw it, a figure far off, barely visible through the fog. Low to the ground, long arms, pale skin. It wasn't moving. I blinked, and it was gone. No sound, no trail. Just vanished. I backed, up heart pounding, and tripped over something. A shoe. A man's boot torn open at the side. Inside was a sock, and inside the sock, toes still attached. I threw up beside the porch. That was it. Couldn't stay here. I needed to leave. Radio wasn't working, trails were flooded. But I remembered the old fire lookout tower. A mile, maybe 2. If I could make it there, I could signal for help. I packed quickly, grabbed a flare. First, aid kit, some food. Wrapped Laurel's rope tight around my wrist. I couldn't leave without it. Then I stepped off the porch and into the trees. Every step felt like a mistake. The forest had gone quiet again. Too quiet. No wind, no animals. Just wet leaves and fog so thick it looked like smoke. I kept my hand on my belt where the flare sat, my only weapon. Then I heard it, footsteps. Not mine, not animal. Something fast. They darted in and out of the fog, circling me. I turned and turned, trying to see, but I couldn't catch it. Just flashes. Pale. Limbs, long fingers, a mouth that didn't close, and no eyes. I ran. Branches slapped my face, mud soaked my boots. I didn't stop, I didn't look back, just kept going, heart thudding so loud it echoed in my ears. Then I tripped, fell face first into the mud. When I looked up, it was standing there, 5 feet away. The rake. It was tall but hunched like its bones didn't fit right. Skin pale as paper, mouth hanging open, teeth too many, too sharp. And its face. It had no face. Just smooth skin. Stretched tight. But I knew it was watching me, even without eyes. I scrambled back, but it didn't chase me. It just stood there, head twitching slowly side to side. Then it opened its mouth wider and spoke. Laurel. Not a growl, not a hiss. Her. Voice clear, sweet, gentle. I screamed, not words, just sound. I grabbed the flare and lit it. Fire bursting into red smoke and light. The creature hissed, sharp, high-pitched, like steam. Then it vanished again into the fog, faster than my eyes could follow. Gone. I stayed on the ground, breathing hard, flare still burning in my hand. The light painted everything red. I looked around, shaking. The forest was still again. I didn't wait. I got up and ran. Legs weak, lungs tight, but I ran until I saw the tower, old, rusted, tall as the trees. I climbed 2 steps at a time. Every creak of the wood sounded like it would snap, but I made it to the top and slammed the hatch shut behind me. The room was small, windows on all sides, broken radio, map table, an old chair, but no creature. I collapsed in the corner and waited for my heart to calm. Then I checked the glass. The fog had risen, and on every window, I saw shapes. Tall, thin, head cocked sideways, dozens of them, watching, waiting. The tower felt like the only place left in the world. I sat on the wooden floor, back against the wall, trying to catch my breath. My clothes were soaked, my legs shook, the flare had burned out. I had one left. Outside the windows, the fog thickened. I couldn't see the trees anymore, just white, like I was floating in a cloud. But I wasn't alone. I could feel them below, standing at the edge of the trees, waiting, watching. And one of them, the one that spoke with her voice, was closer. I stood slowly and checked the door hatch in the floor, locked tight. I pushed the desk over it just in case. Every sound made me jump. A creak, a gust of wind, the groan of old wood shifting under pressure. I walked to the window, drew a big circle in the fogged-up glass with my hand. For a moment, nothing. Then something moved. A pale hand slapped the outside of the window, fast, sudden, loud. I stumbled back, heart racing. Another hand, then another. Smears on the glass like fingerprints made of grease. Then I saw its face. No eyes, mouth too wide, skin pulled tight over bones. It pressed its face against the glass and smiled. Her smile. Laurel, it said. It's okay now, you can come. I shook my head. You're not her, I whispered. It repeated the words, voice perfect, tone soft. Then another face appeared beside it. Then another, all the same. No eyes, same voice. It's okay now, Curtis. The pressure in my head came back, pounding, sharp. My nose started bleeding. I grabbed the last flare, struck it hard, and threw it at the window. Red light exploded across the tower. The creatures screamed, high, sharp, horrible. They backed away into the fog. I sank to the floor, breathing heavy. The flare wouldn't last long. I reached for my pocket, pulled out my notebook and a pen, and I started writing. I didn't know if anyone would find it, but I had to try. I had to leave something behind, something real. My name is Curtis Rowe. I came here to help. I don't know what I found. It's not human. It looks like us, talks like us, but it's not. If it speaks in a voice you love, don't listen. Don't follow. Don't stay. I'm sorry, Laurel, I couldn't save you, but maybe I can save someone else. I finished the note and tied it to the railing outside with her rope. My hands moved on their own, slow, steady, like I knew what I had to do. Then, the sound came, and below the tower, wood cracking, nails tearing out. It was coming up. I grabbed the last piece of Laurel's rope, the one I'd never used, and tied it around the top railing. Tight, strong, climber's knot, the same kind she taught me. I wrapped the other end around my waist. The hatch burst open. It stood there in the middle of the room. The rake. It didn't move like a person. It twitched. Quick, jerky steps, head tilting side to side. Its skin dripped like it was wet inside. Then it charged. I didn't wait. I jumped. The rope snapped tight around my waist. I swung under the platform, the air rushing past me. The wood above groaned. The creature dove after me, missed by inches. It screamed. Not Laurel's voice this time. Its own, high-pitched, wild, like a fox dying in fire. I hit the side of the tower hard. My ribs ached. But the rope held. I hung there, eyes wide, breath frozen. Then silence. No scream, no voice, no sound but the rain. The thing was gone. I stayed hanging there until my arms went numb. Then slowly, painfully, I climbed back up. The tower was empty. The fog had pulled back. The trail below was clear again, and just like that, it was over. That was 2 weeks ago. They found me walking out of the woods, barefoot, covered in cuts, barely speaking. I told them I'd gotten lost. Told them I hit my head. They didn't believe me, but they didn't ask too many questions. The doctors say I'll be fine, but I won't. I don't talk much anymore. I don't sleep because I still hear it. Sometimes in the rain, sometimes in my dreams. Her voice. It's okay now, Curtis. You can come. But I know better now. I know what walks in the rain